Chapter 62. Saint Lord, I'm here. Yaoqi Saintess entered the room and saw Ning Tian lying on the bed, covered in blood. Her face turned pale as she cried out, "Patriarch! What? What happened?" "He's injured." Luo Wuqing's cold and pleasant voice sounded in the room. At this moment, Yaoqi Saintess realized that there was someone else in the room. She looked over subconsciously, and her face changed slightly. She bowed and said, "Yaoqi greets the Empress." Yaoqi Saintess didn't expect that the Empress of the Tianma cult would come personally. What in the world had happened? She looked at the Queen Mother of the West with a puzzled look. The Queen Mother of the West shook her head and sighed. "He's being chased by the Shadow Demon Old Man and the Sky Vault Saint Lord. He's seriously injured." She didn't tell her that Ning Tian had summoned the phantom of the Great Emperor. She just gave a simple explanation. The Shadow Demon Old Man? And the Sky Vault Saint Lord? Yaoqi Saintess was shocked. These were two genuine god thearchs. The Patriarch was only seriously injured after being chased by two god thearchs? Hiss! Yaoqi Saintess sucked in a breath of cold air. She looked at Ning Tian, who was lying on the bed, and felt incredulous. To be able to escape from two god thearchs with just the strength of the spirit-detecting realm, this was unprecedented even in the entire profound sky world. "All right, Yaoqi, don't tell anyone about this." The Queen Mother of the West glanced at Yaoqi Saintess indifferently. "Yaoqi understands. Go to the Jade Lake and bring the Jade Lake Immortal Pill here," the Queen Mother of the West said again. Yaoqi Saintess nodded and turned to leave the room. She walked towards the Jade Lake. After Yaoqi Saintess left, the room fell silent again. Luo Wuqing fixed her eyes on Ning Tian. Suddenly, she asked, "Is there something under the Jade Lake Sacred Land?" Hearing this, the Queen Mother of the West's body trembled. A bitter smile appeared on her face. "Looks like you found out." Indeed, a great emperor was so terrifying. Although there were thousands of sealing formations, Luo Wuqing could still detect it. "That's a true devil. Your Jade Lake sacred ground doesn't have the ability to trap him," Luo Wuqing said indifferently while wiping Ning Tian's blood. "But what can I do?" Shi Wangmu smiled bitterly and shook her head helplessly. "The Jade Lake sacred ground has sealed him for thousands of years. If we give up now, we will destroy the Jade Lake. We can only persist." Hearing this, Luo Wuqing didn't say anything. "All right, let's drop this matter. I hope you won't spread this." The Queen Mother of the West looked at Luo Wuqing nervously. When she nodded, she sighed in relief. Then, she took out a towel and placed it beside Luo Wuqing. Luo Wuqing looked up. Confusion flashed in her eyes. "Take off his clothes and wipe the blood," the Queen Mother of the West teased. "Are you embarrassed?" "It's okay. If you are, I think my Jade Lake disciple can help you with this." Luo Wuqing was stunned. She gritted her teeth and pushed the Queen Mother of the West out. "I don't need the Jade Lake's help for such a small matter." "Then hurry up. The Jade Lake sacred pill will be here soon." The Queen Mother of the West smiled and closed the door. In the room, looking at the unconscious Ning Tian, Luo Wuqing bit her red lips. Her heart was beating so fast. "Forget it," she sighed. "Anyway, I helped this guy take off his clothes last time." Then, Luo Wuqing put the towel aside and carefully lifted Ning Tian's body. She took off his clothes and prepared to clean the blood on his body. "This guy, why do I feel like his body has improved?" Looking at Ning Tian's muscular body, Luo Wuqing's face reddened. Confusion flashed in her eyes. All of this was because of the immortal spirit spring that improved his body. Soon, Luo Wuqing saw the wounds on Ning Tian's body. His chest was caved in. Not a single bone in his body was intact. Almost all of them were broken. He was barely holding on. "Ning Tian," Luo Wuqing murmured to herself. She touched Ning Tian's face gently. Her heart was filled with pain. Then, she took a deep breath, picked up the towel, and walked to the wooden bucket. She wet the towel with warm water and began to wipe the blood on Ning Tian's body. Because Ning Tian was almost completely covered in blood, she wiped almost all of his body. During the process of wiping, Luo Wuqing intentionally glanced at Ning Tian. When he realized that there was no reaction, he felt a little disappointed. If only this guy was pretending to be unconscious. After a while, Luo Wuqing was very considerate. She wiped Ning Tian's body clean. Not a single trace of blood was left. If the Tianma cult, or even the various forces in the Tianling domain, knew of her gentle appearance, they would be shocked. The Empress was decisive and ruthless. Who would have thought that she had such a side to her? But only Ning Tian could enjoy this touch of gentleness. Knock knock. At this time, there was a knock on the door. Luo Wuqing covered Ning Tian with a blanket. Come in. She looked at the door. The Empress of the West and Yaoqi Saintess walked in slowly. Seeing that the bucket of warm water had turned into a bucket of blood-red water, the Empress of the West said with a smile, "Looks like you've wiped it clean." Humph, Luo Wuqing snorted coldly. She looked at the Empress of the West and said slowly, "Where's the Yaoqi immortal pill?" At that moment, after seeing the severity of Ning Tian's injuries, Luo Wuqing did not want to waste another second. "Yaoqi, give the Yaoqi immortal pill to the Empress," the Empress of the West said to Yaoqi Saintess. Yaoqi Saintess took out a jade bottle from her bosom. Immortal qi swirled in the jade bottle, and a round immortal pill lay quietly in it. "Here, Your Majesty," Yaoqi Saintess said and handed the jade bottle over. Luo Wuqing took it immediately. Before opening the jade bottle, she asked deliberately, "Empress of the West, are you sure that the Yaoqi immortal pill can heal Ning Tian's injuries?" "Don't worry, it definitely can." The Empress of the West nodded affirmatively. Luo Wuqing was relieved and opened the jade bottle. In an instant, a medicinal fragrance filled the room. "It's really the Yaoqi immortal pill." Luo Wuqing confirmed and smelled the medicinal fragrance. She was full of expectations. As long as Ning Tian took the Yaoqi immortal pill, he would be healed. She did not hesitate anymore. She opened Ning Tian's mouth and sent the Yaoqi immortal pill in. Luo Wuqing was relieved when she saw Ning Tian swallow the Yaoqi immortal pill. Seeing this, the Empress of the West's lips curled up and a sly look flashed in her eyes. Chapter 63. When the Yaoqi immortal elixir entered Ning Tian's body, there was no reaction after a few minutes of absorption. The Yaoqi immortal elixir began to take effect. In Ning Tian's body, rays of brilliant light of life flickered. His originally sunken chest actually began to recover at this moment, and a series of crisp sounds came from within his body. Under the influence of the Yaoqi immortal elixir, even the broken bones in his body began to repair themselves. Seeing this scene, the three women in the room heaved a sigh of relief. Judging from the situation, the Yaoqi immortal elixir had a great effect on Ning Tian's injuries. Phew! Luo Wuqing heaved a sigh of relief as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. However, it's amazing. Beside him, the Queen Mother of the West squinted her beautiful eyes and looked at Ning Tian. This guy has suffered such serious injuries, but his spiritual C and spiritual meridians are still intact. Otherwise, the Yaoqi immortal elixir wouldn't be able to repair them. After all, the spiritual C and spiritual meridians are cultivated by oneself, not the body's structure. Luo Wuqing nodded and looked at Ning Tian. This might be a blessing in disguise. However, the two women didn't know that there was no such thing as a blessing in this world. If Ning Tian hadn't taken the magical hand rejuvenation elixir, the spiritual C and spiritual meridians in his body would have been destroyed. In the room, as time passed, Ning Tian's injuries were almost healed. His aura gradually stabilized, and he could even vaguely absorb the spiritual qi. Seeing that the Yaoqi immortal elixir had such a good effect on Ning Tian, even the Queen Mother of the West was a little surprised. In less than an hour, he has recovered to such an extent. This physique is really amazing. The Queen Mother of the West squinted her beautiful eyes and said slowly, "Luo Wuqing, this is your husband. His body is really good." At this moment, the green light of life on Ning Tian's body changed into a blazing red. "This is?" Luo Wuqing frowned slightly. "Oh, it's here." Shi Wangmu's lips curled up slightly as a brilliant light flashed in her eyes. It was as if she had already expected this. At this moment, Ning Tian's body began to heat up. His entire body was red and scalding. "This," Seeing this scene, Luo Wuqing was stunned for a moment, but he quickly reacted. As a great emperor, how could she not see that Ning Tian had been poisoned by desire? Queen Mother of the West, what's going on? She gritted her teeth and looked at Queen Mother of the West. It's normal. The Queen Mother of the West shrugged innocently. Didn't I tell you that the Jasper Lake Immortal Pill can save him? That's for sure. But you didn't hear me out. The Jasper Lake Immortal Pill isn't ripe yet. There must be side effects. As for the side effects, as you can see, this is what it looks like. Shi Wangmu said with a smile, it's fine. It's just the poison of desire. It's easy to cure. Luo Wuqing gritted her teeth in silence. As his wife, you can cure him. At this point, looking at Luo Wuqing's slightly flushed face, the Queen Mother of the West teased, what's wrong? Don't tell me that you haven't done it after being married for so long. It's fine, it's fine. If you don't want to do it, the Jasper Lake has plenty of candidates to cure him. Even I, Yaoqi Saintis, can do it. The Queen Mother of the West narrowed her eyes with a smile. Upon hearing this, Yaoqi Saintis's face turned red. Looking at her ancestral master's reaction, she naturally knew what was going on. Upon hearing the Queen Mother of the West's words, Luo Wuqing was instantly displeased. He snorted coldly. Who are you to interfere in this matter? Hurry up and leave. The Queen Mother of the West smiled. Then, she left with Yaoqi Saintis. When she closed the door, she even winked mischievously at Luo Wuqing. Luo Wuqing, I hope you have fun with your ancestral master. Hee. Accompanied by a burst of bell-like laughter, Luo Wuqing gritted her teeth. Looking at Ning Tian, who was almost roasted on the bed, her heart was beating wildly. She was extremely nervous. She took a deep breath. After making up her mind, she waved her hand. In an instant, an Emperor Realm aura enveloped the entire room. At this moment, her white dress slid down, and she walked toward Ning Tian. The thing that Ning Tian had always wanted to do had quietly happened in a freak combination of circumstances. Chapter 64. That smooth and tender skin was exposed to the air. Luo Wuqing walked over and looked at Ning Tian, whose body was emitting white smoke due to the poison. She gritted her teeth and her face turned red. You're really lucky for you. Speaking of which, the relationship between the two was very strange. Last time, it was Ning Tian who took the initiative, but this time, it was her who took the initiative. It was really a joke. Sigh. Luo Wuqing sighed faintly and immediately bent down. At that moment, it was like a piece of firewood meeting a raging fire. Ning Tian's eyes were burning, and he suddenly hugged Luo Wuqing in his arms. At this moment, there was only constant demand in his mind. Demand more. After an unknown period of time, Ning Tian seemed to have a strange dream. In the dream, there was a woman who gave all her gentleness to him. Suddenly, Ning Tian opened his eyes and sat up from the bed. Did I just have a wet dream? A deep look of doubt flashed in his eyes. But this was too damn realistic, wasn't it? Ning Tian shook his dizzy head. His body felt like it was falling apart, especially his waist. He looked around and found it somewhat familiar. This is the Jade Lake Sacred Ground? Why am I back? Hiss. Suddenly, there was a pain in his head, and fragments of memories kept flashing in his mind. So, it was my wife and the Queen Mother of the West who saved me. Ning Imo smiled bitterly. When he mentioned Luo Wuqing, her beautiful face overlapped with the woman in his dream. At this moment, a strong medicinal fragrance settled in his body. The system's voice sounded. Host, this is the medicinal power left by the Jade Lake Immortal Pill. You can absorb it. Jade Lake Immortal Pill? It's for me to eat? Ning Tian's eyes flashed with a touch of astonishment. He vaguely knew how important the Jade Lake Immortal Elixir was. Otherwise, Luo Wuqing wouldn't have agreed to borrow the Jade Lake Immortal Elixir. Now, he had eaten the immortal pill of the Jade Lake. Luo Wuqing must have done this to save him. Wife. A hint of warmth flashed past Ning Tian's eyes, but soon after, he calmed down. Since Luo Wuqing let him eat this Jade Lake Immortal Pill, then he could not waste it. Enduring the soreness in his body, Ning Tian sat down cross-legged and began to circulate the Heavenly God record. As soon as he activated the Heavenly God record, his body was immediately filled with a familiar spiritual energy. 199 lightning tribulation spirit veins and 20 entertainment Tao spirit veins began to circulate. At this moment, Ning Tian finally saw the enormous medicinal power of the Jade Lake Immortal Pill. The medicinal power left in his body by the Jade Lake Immortal Pill was much greater than the spiritual chi in his entire spiritual sea. With this medicinal strength, I might be able to break through to the next realm. A hint of excitement flashed past Ning Tian's eyes. The medicinal strength of the Jade Lake Immortal Pill was far beyond his imagination. After all, if a God Emperor ate this Jade Lake Immortal Pill, there was a very small chance that he would break through to the God realm. Although with Ning Tian's strength, he definitely could not absorb all of the medicinal strength, it could still help him break through to the next realm. Taking out the soul origin bead, Ning Tian began to cooperate with the medicinal strength, constantly absorbing the spiritual energy in it. Soon, rays of brilliance flowed around his body, and he was immersed in cultivation. Not far from the wooden house, Luo Wuqing and the Queen Mother of the West walked over. More than 4 hours. TSK, Luo Wuqing, your husband's health is too good. A hint of slyness flashed across the Queen Mother of the West's beautiful eyes. She glanced at Luo Wuqing, hinting at something. Luo Wuqing remained silent. One could vaguely see that there was a faint blush behind her ears. She looked radiant and radiant. Seeing that she did not speak, the Queen Mother of the West continued to tease her. I have to say, my clothes do suit you quite well. The Queen Mother of the West looked at Luo Wuqing from head to toe. At this moment, Luo Wuqing was wearing a purple chiffon dress, which outlined her perfect figure. When she stood next to the Queen Mother of the West, the two of them were like a pair of beautiful sisters. However, I'm still curious. Why are you wearing my clothes? The Queen Mother of the West looked at Luo Wuqing with a teasing look in her beautiful eyes. You don't need to know. A black line appeared on Luo Wuqing's forehead. She could not tell the Queen Mother of the West that it was Ning Tian who suddenly went crazy and tore all her clothes on the ground. The Queen Mother of the West looked at Luo Wuqing and sighed meaningfully. Sigh, young people nowadays are getting more and more open. Hearing the Queen Mother of the West's words, Luo Wuqing gritted her teeth. She really wanted to sew the Queen Mother of the West's mouth shut. Soon, the two women arrived in front of the wooden house. Looking at the tightly shut wooden door, both of them frowned. Could it be that this fellow still hasn't woken up? They pushed the door open. Luo Wuqing and the Queen Mother of the West walked in and saw Ning Tian sitting cross-legged inside. He's cultivating? Seeing this, Luo Wuqing was slightly surprised. A hint of relief flashed in her eyes. Luo Wuqing, looks like your husband is quite something. The Queen Mother of the West looked at Ning Tian with sparkling eyes. After tirelessly doing that thing with you for a few hours, he still has the strength to cultivate. Amazing, amazing. Shut up, Luo Wuqing said flatly. Then, she looked at Ning Tian. At this moment, Ning Tian's body was shrouded in spiritual energy. His aura was like a hot knife through butter, rising steadily. Is he going to break through? Seeing this, Luo Wuqing and the Queen Mother of the West were slightly surprised. They didn't expect Ning Tian to benefit from this misfortune and break through. However, the two women's curious eyes were fixed on Ning Tian. Since he benefited from this misfortune, what realm could he break through to? Ning Tian didn't notice the arrival of Luo Wuqing and Luo Wuqing. He was only focused on channeling the huge amount of spiritual energy in his body. Suddenly, the spiritual sea in his body shook. Boom! Is this about to break through? Ning Tian was overjoyed. He didn't expect the breakthrough to come so quickly. Boom! This was the power of the Jade Lake Immortal Pill. After all, this was something that even God Emperors coveted. Even if Ning Tian couldn't absorb all of it with his current strength, the energy it provided was still enormous. Boom! Then, the system's voice sounded continuously. Congratulations, host, for breaking through. You are now a 6-star spirit detecting realm. Congratulations, host, for breaking through. You are now a 7-star spirit detecting realm. Congratulations, host, for breaking through. You are now a 9-star spirit detecting realm. Host, for breaking through. Congratulations, host, for breaking through to the 1-star Earth King realm. Boom. In an instant, a bright golden light shrouded Ning Tian's body. His aura was rising steadily. He broke through to the Earth King realm? The Queen Mother of the West gasped and looked at Ning Tian in shock. How did he do it? Chapter 65. Ning Tian broke through a few small realms at once, and even broke through a major realm at the end, which really shocked the Queen Mother of the West. He absorbed most of the medicinal power of the Jade Lake Immortal Pill. Luo Wuqing looked at Ning Tian and narrowed her beautiful eyes. The medicinal power of the Jade Lake Immortal Pill didn't go to waste in his body. Instead, he absorbed all of it. Hiss! The Queen Mother of the West was shocked. She knew that the medicinal power of the Jade Lake Immortal Pill was strong. She just didn't expect Ning Tian to be able to absorb it. Interesting, really interesting. The Queen Mother of the West chuckled and looked at Ning Tian with eyes full of splendor. Phew! On the bed, Ning Tian exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. Feeling the rich spiritual energy in his body, he couldn't help but feel excited. The medicinal power of the Jade Lake Immortal Pill was so rich. Even if he couldn't absorb it completely, he still jumped 6 stars and broke through to the Earth King realm. As expected of the treasure of the Jade Lake Sacred Ground, you shocked the Queen Mother of the West. You are rewarded with the Entertainment Path Martial Technique, Heavenly Sound Kill. Comprehending at 10 times the speed. Comprehension successful. Hearing the system's voice, Ning Tian was stunned. He raised his head and saw Luo Wuqing and the Queen Mother of the West standing outside the door. Wife, Queen Mother of the West, Ning Tian greeted. His gaze fell on Luo Wuqing, and a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. Luo Wuqing's purple dress was simply amazing, but Ning Tian looked at the remaining blush on Luo Wuqing's face. He couldn't help but be puzzled and asked with concern, Wife, why is your face so red? Is the water too hot? Do you want me to help you take off your clothes? Get lost. Luo Wuqing snorted and rolled her eyes at Ning Tian. This made Ning Tian depressed. When did he make his wife unhappy again? What Ning Tian didn't know was that the redness on Luo Wuqing's face was due to the fact that he had just finished doing it. Next, the Queen Mother of the West checked Ning Tian's body with the music Dao. After confirming that there was no problem, she nodded at Luo Wuqing. His body is fine. Yes, thank you. Luo Wuqing breathed a sigh of relief. As long as Ning Tian's body was fine, then everything would be fine. He left the house and walked into the small courtyard. Luo Wuqing prepared to leave with Ning Tian. Founder, remember to come to the Jade Lake Sacred Ground often. The disciples of the Jade Lake welcome you very much. Before leaving, the Queen Mother of the West smiled and winked at Ning Tian. Ning Tian rubbed his nose and was about to reply politely. Suddenly, he felt a cold gaze from behind him. Hiss! He shuddered and shook his head quickly. He declined politely. Thank you for your kindness, Queen Mother of the West, but forget it. Then, he quickly looked at Luo Wuqing. Wife, how do we go back? Luo Wuqing glanced at Ning Tian indifferently. Hold me. I'll fly you back. Fly back? Ning Tian was stunned and puzzled. Aren't you an Emperor God expert? Could it be that Emperor God experts can't step into the void? 10 million miles in one step? 10 million miles in one step. That's something only God experts can do. Luo Wuqing's forehead appeared. He looked at Ning Tian indifferently. I can step into the void by myself, but you might die in the void. So, before Luo Wuqing finished speaking, he felt a wave of heat. Then, he hugged her slender waist and chuckled. Honey, I'm ready. Let's go. Seeing that he didn't hold back at all, Luo Wuqing was stunned and shook his head. Yes, I'm ready. We're going to take off. As soon as he finished speaking, Ning Tian hugged her tighter. Luo Wuqing was silent. Then, he activated his spiritual qi. In the blink of an eye, the two of them broke through the clouds and left the Jade Lake Sacred Ground. Looking at the two of them leaving, The Queen Mother of the West narrowed her eyes and frowned. She sighed faintly and looked into the distance. That direction was the mountain behind the Jade Lake. Is it really like what Luo Wuqing said, a true demon? But now that things have come to this, we can only continue. The Queen Mother of the West sighed. At this moment, the life and death of the Jade Lake sacred ground rested on her shoulders. However, she couldn't let it go. She couldn't let it go. High in the sky, a figure flashed through the clouds. Luo Wuqing was speechless. When they were high in the sky, Ning Tian didn't do anything and just hugged her tightly as if he was afraid that he would fall. What are you doing? Luo Wuqing gritted her teeth and asked. Ning Tian said seriously. Wife, I'm afraid of heights. For my safety, I think it's necessary to take action. After saying that, he hugged her tightly again. Then, he looked down. At this moment, they felt as if they were standing shoulder to shoulder with the sun. It was too high. If they fell, they would be done for. Luo Wuqing's mouth twitched. Then why are you lying in front of me? She asked again. The air circulation in the sky is not smooth. I can breathe here, and the air is fragrant. Ning Tian mumbled as she crawled back into the cave. Luo Wuqing was speechless. She just wanted to get back to the Tianma cult as soon as possible and get rid of this clingy guy. Therefore, she could only circulate her Emperor Realm aura and directly turned her body into an afterimage, exploding her speed to the extreme. In the sky, screams sounded. Ah! What the F asterisk CK? Wife, you have to slow down. On the ground, many people heard the screams and subconsciously raised their heads. In the clouds, there was no one. Only a shooting star flashed by. This made many people scratch their heads. Screaming in broad daylight? Chapter 66. Luo Wuqing froze for a moment, and a trace of doubt flashed in her eyes. But when she saw the naughty smile on Ning Tian's face, she immediately understood what he meant by eating meat. You bastard, in the afternoon. Luo Wuqing clenched her teeth. She almost blurted out what had happened, but fortunately, she stopped herself in time. Huh, what afternoon? A trace of doubt flashed in Ning Tian's eyes. Nothing. Hee, then tonight. Bang. In the next moment, Ning Tian's figure flew up into the sky. Luo Wuqing, my stars, if you can't do it, then you can't. Why did you kick me? F asterisk CK. I'm afraid of heights. Seeing Ning Tian's figure fly out, the group of Tianma cult disciples couldn't help but sigh. The relationship between the patriarch and the empress was really good. Every time, the patriarch could happily fly into the sky. At night, naturally, Ning Tian didn't get to eat the meat he was longing for. Not only that, but Luo Wuqing also kicked him out when he was about to go to bed. He couldn't help but sigh. A woman's heart was like a needle at the bottom of the sea. However, what he didn't know was that the reason Luo Wuqing kicked him out was that Ning Tian had tired her out in the Jade Lake sacred ground, so she couldn't be bothered with him. Sigh. It's better to cultivate. My wife doesn't smell good. He sighed. Ning Tian could only go to Moonlight Cliff to cultivate. Moonlight Cliff. The bright moon hung in the sky, and the Grand Elder was leading a group of disciples to cultivate. Although the patriarch hadn't been in Tianma cult these days, cultivating at Moonlight Cliff at night had gradually become a habit. Look, patriarch, the patriarch is here. Suddenly, a disciple seemed to see a figure walking over on Moonlight Cliff. He was instantly pleasantly surprised. Patriarch? The Grand Elder and the surrounding disciples were stunned, and then they all looked up. It was indeed the patriarch. Greetings, patriarch. The Grand Elder took the lead in saluting. Greetings, patriarch. Behind him, a group of disciples bowed excitedly. Shuh. Ning Tian made a shushing gesture and smiled. It's late, and everyone is asleep. Let's be quiet. Yes. The group of people lowered their voices and nodded. Everyone's gaze landed on Ning Tian. Under everyone's gazes, Ning Tian slowly sat down cross-legged at the foot of the Moonlight Cliff. Shortly after, he activated the power of faith to cultivate. Cultivation of faith is starting. Activation successful. As soon as the system's voice fell, a golden light array that only Ning Tian could see enveloped the entire moonlight cliff. My spiritual energy is being absorbed? F***CK. With the arrival of the ancestral master, my spiritual energy absorption and cultivation speed have doubled. Amazing! Amazing! When the golden array appeared, the cultivation of faith began. This group of Ning Mo's believers instantly felt the spiritual energy in their bodies and the change in their cultivation speed. All of them were incomparably excited, and their breathing quickened. This was the feeling they were looking for. Sure enough, this old man has something to say, but I don't know if I should say it. The Grand Elder stroked his white beard and looked at Ning Tian, who had entered the cultivation state on the moonlight cliff with blazing eyes. That is, the ancestral master is awesome. Hearing this, the group of disciples was incomparably excited. The ancestral master is really awesome. After shouting this sentence, they even felt that the spiritual energy in their bodies was even faster. They were even more amazed by the ancestral master's magic. At this moment, the system's voice kept ringing in Ning Tian's mind. Absorption of faith energy +1. Absorption of faith energy +2. Absorption of faith energy +1. Absorption of faith energy +3. Current storage of faith energy 100, 1000. Oh, it became 1000? Seeing the maximum storage of faith energy from 100 to 1000, Ning Tian's eyes flashed with excitement. At the same time, he was also a little curious about the power of 1000 points of faith energy. Just a day ago, 100 points of faith energy was enough to destroy one of the hands of the defenseless Sky Vault Holy Lord. One had to know that the Sky Vault Holy Lord was a god, the arch-powerhouse. 100 points of faith energy was already so powerful. Then, how powerful would 1000 points of faith energy be? Anticipation gradually emerged in his heart. Ning Tian didn't continue to waste time. He took out the soul origin bead and began to cultivate. Soon, his body was shrouded in pale white spiritual energy. It was as if his body was covered in a silver radiance. It was very holy and attracted a lot of attention below. The ancestral master's strength has improved a lot again. The Grand Elder's gaze fell on Ning Tian and couldn't help but sigh. But suddenly, he frowned and his expression changed. What the F***CK? The ancestral master has broken through to the Earth Monarch stage? At this moment, the Grand Elder was stunned. He vaguely remembered that a few days ago, before the ancestral master left, he was only around spirit detecting stage 3. But now, he flew 90,000 miles into the sky and directly flew to the Earth Monarch stage. He suddenly remembered that Ning Tian muttered at that time whether he could break through to the Earth Monarch stage in 2 months. The corner of his mouth twitched fiercely. My ancestral master, how could you only need 2 months? You broke through in a few days. Thinking of how difficult it was for him to break through, the Grand Elder deeply felt what was called the gap. This was the gap. The ancestral master is in the Earth Monarch stage? F***CK. Awesome. Hearing the Grand Elder's words, the group of disciples was stunned for a moment. Then, a hint of fanaticism flashed in their eyes. They were in awe of Ning Tian and were about to worship him like a god. This cultivation speed, not to mention the Tianma cult, even in the entire heavenly spirit region, no one could compare to him. You have shocked the Grand Elder and a group of disciples. Reward: 500 points of spiritual energy cultivation. Feeling the sudden influx of spiritual energy in his body, Ning Tian just smiled and didn't take it to heart. He continued to cultivate. A few days passed in the blink of an eye. When the news of the death of the 2 god thearchs, the Shadow Demon Old Man and the Sky Vault's Saint Master, spread throughout the entire heavenly spirit region, the entire heavenly spirit region was in an uproar. 2 god thearchs actually died at the same time? And when an eyewitness came out and said that he had seen the Shadow Demon Old Man and the Sky Vault Saint Master chasing the Tianma cult's legendary ancestral master, countless people's expressions were a little strange. 2 god thearchs chasing a spirit-detecting realm powerhouse? But soon, another piece of news came, and it was true. But when everyone learned that the legendary ancestral master of the Tianma cult was still in the Tianma cult and was as carefree as he could be, the entire heavenly spirit region's powerhouses felt like there were 10 million alpacas galloping through their hearts. Was there a mistake? A spirit-detecting realm brat could actually escape from the hands of two god thearchs? At this moment, the entire heavenly spirit region was silent. They didn't need to think too much. Since she had touched a legendary ancestral master, then the shadow demon old man and the sky vault saint master must have died in the hands of the empress. And when the group of disciples in the Tianma cult found out about this, their worship of Ning Tian reached the peak. This also allowed Ning Tian to absorb a lot of faith energy. Chilly Wind Mountain Range, Heavenly Wind City. This was the Tianma cult's outer city. At this moment, some uninvited guests were welcomed. Chapter 67. Tianfeng City. On the city wall, a group of boys and girls wearing Tianma cult uniforms walked over. Senior Brotherly, our patrol is over. A young girl with two ponytails walked over and said to the young man standing on the highest point of the city wall. Oh. Hearing this, Senior Brotherly jumped down from the city wall. How's your patrol going? It's getting late. Be careful. Don't let the demonic beasts enter the city and attack the people. Senior Brotherly said to the group with a serious face. Don't worry. We've finished our patrol. The young girl giggled. We've scattered demonic repelling powder nearby. Those demonic beasts won't dare to come here. That's more like it. Senior Brotherly nodded. His real name was Li Changda, and he was the younger brother of the great elder's chief disciple. Sister Tao. Li Changda looked at the young girl and said, the Chill Wind Mountain Range hasn't been peaceful recently. Demonic beasts have escaped from there and injured many people in the Tianma cult cities. The elders attach great importance to this matter. Therefore, these life-saving medicines must be distributed to everyone. Sister Tao nodded and patted her chest. She giggled and said, Senior brother, don't worry. Peach, I will definitely do a good job in this matter. Go. Li Zhangda smiled in relief and waved his hand, indicating for them to do as they were told. He himself, on the other hand, scanned the surroundings. After discovering that there were no demonic beasts around, he let out a sigh of relief. Demonic beasts were the most terrifying at night. If they formed a beast tide, they could destroy a city in one night. However, at night, they would scatter some demonic repelling powder outside the city. It was made with some unique herbs. Generally, demonic beasts would stay away when they smelled it. Li Changda stood on the city wall and looked at the forest hidden in the darkness. He frowned slightly. He felt a little uneasy. The Chill Wind Mountain Range hasn't been peaceful recently. He sighed, went down the city wall, and walked into the city. Within the city, many civilians who had been injured by the demonic beasts were lying on the ground, waiting for the disciples of the Tianma cult to distribute medicine. Uncle, this is yours. Sister Tao handed a small jade bottle to an old man with a broken arm. Miss, thank you so much. The old man took the small jade bottle and looked at Sister Tao gratefully. It's fine. It's what I should do. You're also considered part of the Tianma cult, so we're all family. Junior Marshal Sister Tao said to the old man with a friendly smile on her face. A family. Hearing this, the old man almost cried. When he was young, this city had also been taken over by other demonic sect forces, but the treatment was completely different. Those demonic sect forces completely used them as tools. They didn't care if they were dead or alive. They were only responsible for occasionally checking if there were any gifted new bloodlines. In fact, all the major forces in the heavenly spirit region had cities under their control. The people in these cities undoubtedly used them as a supply pool to select new bloodlines. Only the Tianma cult gave them the feeling that they were also part of the Tianma cult. Old man, don't cry. Seeing the old man cry, Sister Tao couldn't help but panic. It's fine, it's fine. The old man wiped his tears and waved his hand. This old man is crying because he's happy. All right. Sister Tao pouted, not understanding his thoughts. Old man, remember to use this medicine. I'll go distribute it to the others. Go on, go on. Sister Tao stood up and walked toward the other injured. A few hours later, the sky was dark. The entire Tianfeng city was lit with torches and lanterns, adding some light to the city. After distributing the last batch of medicine, Sister Tao stretched lazily, feeling very satisfied. Sister Tao, you've worked hard. Li Changda walked over and smiled at Sister Tao. Hee, it's fine. It's not hard. Sister Tao laughed. Didn't the ancestral master say it? How can it be hard to do things for the Tianma cult? Ancestral master? Li Changda smiled. After we're done with Tianfeng City, I'll secretly take you out and go to the Moonlight Cliff to cultivate with the ancestral master. Really? Hearing this, Sister Tao's eyes lit up. She had long heard that the ancestral master would cultivate at the Moonlight Cliff at night, and those who went there could enjoy the ancestral master's blessings. Some people even managed to break through after cultivating for a night. She had been longing for this for a long time, but the gate hall she was in was very strict. She wasn't allowed to go out at night. After hearing Li Changda's words, she was immediately excited. Senior Brother Li, you said it yourself. After we're done with Tianfeng City, you'll take me to the Moonlight Cliff to cultivate with the ancestral master. Sister Tao's beautiful eyes were full of expectation, looking at Li Changda. Yes, of course. Li Changda smiled and nodded. All right, it's getting late. Go rest early. Okay. Sister Tao nodded. At this moment, an angry roar suddenly came from outside the city. Roar. Huh. What's that sound? Hearing this sound, the two were stunned for a moment. They looked at each other and their faces changed. This is the sound of a demonic beast. Let's go. Up the city wall. The two immediately rushed to the city wall. At this moment, when the demonic beast sound rang out, the entire Tianfeng city fell into a state of alert. All the disciples of the Tianma cult were on the move. If it was during the day, no one would take a demonic beast's roar to heart. However, it was night now. There was a beast tide at night. Please don't let it be a beast tide. With a nervous heart, Li Changda and Sister Tao climbed up the city wall. There were already many disciples of the Tianma cult on the city wall. What's going on? Li Changda walked over, frowning and asking the group of people. Senior Li, you're here. The group of Tianma cult disciples hurriedly bowed. Then, they smiled bitterly and pointed at a black shadow not far away from the city. Senior Li, it should be the roar of that demonic beast. Huh. Li Changda and Sister Tao looked over. It was a huge black shadow that was dozens of meters tall. When the light of the fire shone, everyone could see the demonic beast's appearance clearly. It was a huge black bear, and on its body, it was wearing heavy armor. Third-rank demonic beast. Armored black bear. A disciple recognized it and immediately sucked in a breath of cold air. Third-rank demonic beast? Isn't that equivalent to an expert of the Earth King stage? Hearing this, the group of disciples was worried. What was this armored black bear trying to do? At this moment, in Tianfeng City, countless pairs of eyes were looking at the demonic beast worriedly. Suddenly, the armored black bear's next action caused them to be shocked. Not good. Chapter 68. Roar. After the armored black bear roared, a red light flashed in its eyes. Then, it took a deep breath, and its chest expanded. Whoosh. Then, he abruptly blew a breath of air toward the ground around him. Seeing its actions, the group of people was puzzled. What was the armored black bear trying to do? Suddenly, Sister Tao frowned and sniffed the air. Don't you think there's a strange smell in the air? She looked at the group of people beside her. Strange smell? Everyone was stunned, and they followed her and sniffed the air. Sure enough, they found a strange smell. The group of people frowned slightly, and a hint of doubt flashed in their eyes. This smell seemed a little familiar. This is demon-repelling powder. After Li Changda sniffed, his face suddenly changed. The strange smell in the air was none other than demon-repelling powder. What? On the city wall, the Tianma cult disciples' faces changed drastically, and they exclaimed in surprise. It turned out that the armored black bear was blowing away the demon-repelling powder that was scattered around Tianfeng City. Hiss! Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Their eyes were filled with deep disbelief. How could the armored black bear have such a high IQ? This completely subverted everyone's understanding of rank 3 monsters. Roar! 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 After the armored black bear was done, it stood on the spot and kept roaring. What is it trying to do? Sister Tao's beautiful eyes flashed with a hint of worry. Li Changda's forehead was dripping with sweat. He gritted his teeth and ordered the people beside him, "Pass down my order. Everyone, get ready for battle. We might have to experience a big battle." Yes, yes, Senior Brother Li, the group of Tianma cult disciples nodded. The entire Tianfeng city instantly fell into a state of alert. Boom! Suddenly, the ground began to tremble, and waves of roars sounded continuously. On the city wall, Li Changda's face was extremely ugly, because he saw pairs of scarlet eyes appear in the forest outside the city. That was monsters. The group of people widened their eyes. It's over. It's the beast tide. It's the beast tide. For so many demonic beasts to gather in groups at night, there could only be one possibility, a beast tide. Don't panic. Li Changda gritted his teeth. At this time, he could only stand up and stabilize the morale of the army. In the face of the beast horde, one must remain calm. Otherwise, they would only end up as food for the demonic beasts. At this moment, hundreds of demonic beasts appeared in the surroundings. They roared and charged towards the city gate. Quick, reinforce the city gate, Li Changda roared. However, before he could finish his words, the huge city gate was instantly smashed into pieces by a huge force and turned into sawdust on the ground. What? Li Changda looked over and saw that it was the armored black bear that had smashed the city gate. His heart immediately turned cold. Without the city gates, the demonic beasts would be unbridled. Ah, demonic beast, there are demonic beasts. In an instant, the city gate was smashed and countless demonic beasts rushed into Tianfeng City. Although there were Tianma cult disciples in Tianfeng City, there were more unarmed civilians. Ah, save me, save me. Soon, the demonic beasts ran amok in Tianfeng City and screams were heard. It's over. Seeing this scene, Li Changda's eyes were filled with despair. He roared, "Tianma cult fire hall disciples, follow me and kill the demonic beasts." Yes, yes, Senior Brother Li. A group of Tianma cult disciples around him responded. Their bodies were covered in flames. They were the disciples of the fire hall, one of the 108 halls of the Tianma cult. Ha ha ha. Some Tianma cult trash dare to resist? Just as everyone was about to kill the demonic beasts, a burst of laughter came from the night sky. Then, a huge shadow fell from the sky. Everyone looked over and saw that it was the armored black bear. However, at this moment, a man in black was sitting on the shoulder of the armored black bear. Who are you? Seeing the man in black on the armored black bear, Li Changda's eyes flashed with a hint of seriousness. His intuition told him that this man was very strong. Haha. The man in black laughed and jumped down from the armored black bear's shoulder. He looked at Li Changda and the others mockingly. Righteous Alliance, Imperial Beast Sect, Yilong. Righteous Alliance. The genius beast tamer of the Imperial Beast Sect, Yilong? Hearing his words, the faces of the Tianma cult disciples changed. Why was the Imperial Beast Sect from the Righteous Alliance here? Accompanied by the sound of a flute, the demonic beasts slaughtering in Tianfeng City all stopped. At this moment, how could Li Changda and the others not understand that this so-called beast tide was actually controlled by the school of Imperial Beasts? Whoosh! Whoosh! Then, hundreds of figures rushed in from outside Tianfeng City. They were all disciples of the Imperial Beast Sect. You. At this moment, Li Changda seemed to have thought of something. His face suddenly changed, and he pointed at Yilong and the others. Could it be that the demonic beast tide in the ominous Wind Mountains is because of you? I'm afraid you're thinking too much. Yilong's tone was cold. His eyes swept across the Tianma cult disciples. We don't have that ability. We only have the ability to kill you. Haha, hundreds of Tianma cult disciples. If we kill them all, we should be able to go to the Righteous Alliance's martial pavilion and choose some good martial arts techniques. He smiled and looked at Li Zhangde and the others as if he was looking at prey. The Righteous Alliance was an alliance of dozens of forces. They existed to deal with the demonic alliance. Upon closer inspection, there was still a broken sword stuck in his chest, and blood was flowing non-stop. Ha ha ha, I'm a devil? Yilong laughed as if he had heard a joke. After laughing, he rushed to Li Changde, grabbed Li Changde's chin, and lifted him up. At this moment, he was already weak and powerless to resist. Ha ha ha, I'll show you what a real demon is. A hideous smile appeared on Yilong's face. Come, bring that little girl to me. As soon as his voice fell, let go of me. Bastards, you, let go of me. A burst of curses rang out. Two Imperial Beast sect disciples escorted a girl over. It was Sister Tao. You, what are you doing? Seeing this scene, Li Changde's expression changed. Senior brother Li. Seeing that Li Changde was also caught, Sister Tao kept struggling and wanted to run over. Let go of me, let go of me. The two Imperial Beast sect disciples who were holding her would naturally not let her go. Let her go. Yilong's lips curled up slightly as he said calmly, Yes, Senior Brother Yi. When the two disciples let go of Sister Tao immediately rushed toward Li Changde. However, halfway through, her body fell down uncontrollably. There were 2 lines of blood on her ankles. Li Changde's pupils shrank. You broke the meridians in her legs? Senior Brother Li, even though Sister Tao fell heavily on the ground, she continued to crawl toward Li Changde. Ha ha ha, how touching. Yilong laughed. Immediately, a sword appeared in his hand, and he nailed Li Changde to the city wall. Puffed! She spat out a mouthful of blood. Immediately, Yilong helped Sister Tao up. Then, with a tearing sound, her clothes were torn apart. Her fair skin was exposed. You, what are you doing? Li Changde glared at Yilong. I think it would be even more demonic if I humiliated your woman in front of you, Yilong said as he tore off another piece of cloth. What? You bastard, stop it. Li Changde wanted to break free, but the sword that was nailed into his body did not budge. Ha ha ha. Yilong laughed wildly. His laughter was unbridled. Cough cough. Sister Tao coughed out blood. She gritted her teeth and looked at Li Changde. She smiled. Senior brother, don't worry. Even if I die, I won't let him have his way. After saying that, her eyes flashed with a hint of determination. Li Changde's heart skipped a beat, but he did not say anything. How unlucky. She actually bit her tongue to commit suicide. Seeing Sister Tao lose all signs of life, Yilong frowned and threw the body aside. Below, there were already corpses piled up like a mountain. You will suffer retribution. Li Changde gritted his teeth so hard that blood came out. He glared at Yilong. Our Tianma cult's patriarch will not let you go. Oh, that legendary patriarch? Hearing that, Yilong laughed sarcastically. That trash who only knows how to rely on women? He's just a scumbag. Even though Ning Tian's name had spread far and wide in the heavenly spirit domain, Ning Tian's name had spread far and wide. In Yilong's eyes, Ning Tian was no more than a trash who relied on women. The only reason he was able to escape from 2 celestial emperors was because the empress had come. Hee, you will know how terrifying the patriarch is. He won't let you go. Li Changde's eyes were bloodshot as he glared at Yilong. How noisy. Yilong snorted coldly. He pulled out the sword from Li Changde's body and stabbed it again, ending Li Changde's life. Men, hang his and that woman's bodies on Tianfeng City's gates. I want everyone to see how useless the disciples of the Tianma cult are. After the 2 bodies were hung on the city gates, the people from the school of Imperial Beasts left triumphantly. Inside Tianfeng City, blood flowed like a river. Corpses were everywhere, and the smell of blood filled the air. After some time, one of the corpses seemed to move. He looked around in fear, then ran for his life. That direction was the Tianma cult. Chapter 70. One day later. Inside the Tianma cult, Ning Tian was on the moonlight cliff, chewing the apple in his hand. He looked at the disciples below and gave them pointers from time to time. Hey, you! Your cultivation posture is wrong. The way you're holding the sword is wrong. I can't sense the sword chi like this. Junior sister, what kind of cultivation posture is this? You don't have to raise your butt like this. No, you don't have to raise your butt, and you don't have to raise it at me. Looking at the female disciple who kept raising her butt at him, Ning Tian was speechless. Suddenly, he sensed the smell of blood and frowned. Blood? You guys stay here and cultivate. Realizing that something was wrong, Ning Tian instructed the disciples below the moonlight cliff, then used the swimming dragon steps and disappeared in the blink of an eye. By the time the group of disciples reacted, Ning Tian had long since disappeared. Ning Tian followed the smell of blood, and the swimming dragon steps under his feet kept changing. This made many disciples who saw this scene sigh. The ancestral master's strength was getting stronger and stronger. Soon, Ning Tian saw Li Changsheng carrying a Tianma cult disciple covered in blood under a cliff. He used the swimming dragon steps and landed beside Li Changsheng. Changsheng, what's going on? Ning Tian asked with a frown. Is it the ancestral master? Li Changsheng was startled by the sudden sound. When he realized that it was Ning Tian, he laughed bitterly. I don't know. When I was patrolling the mountain gate, I found this disciple lying there covered in blood. Hearing Li Changsheng's words, Ning Tian frowned slightly. He glanced at the disciple and vaguely felt that something was wrong. Come, follow me to the demonic palace. Yes, Ning Tian felt that it was necessary to tell Luo Wuqing about this. Demonic palace. Luo Wuqing was leading a group of elders for a meeting. Halfway through his words, Luo Wuqing looked at the fire hall elder and asked faintly, Elder Huayin, has your fire hall sent anyone to Wine City recently? Your Majesty, we have indeed sent disciples to Tianfeng City recently. Elder Huayin bowed to Luo Wuqing before he slowly said, Recently, the demonic beasts in the Chill Wind Mountain range have caused harm to many citizens of Tianfeng City. Therefore, I have sent some disciples to suppress the demonic beasts. I see. Luo Wuqing nodded. His eyes flashed. But why haven't these disciples returned yet? Elder Huayin paused and pondered for a moment. Perhaps there were too many demonic beasts, so it took some time. Yes, I hope so. Luo Wuqing nodded, but before she could finish, she was suddenly interrupted. Bang! The doors of the demonic palace were pushed open. All the elders were shocked. Who had such guts? Who dared to interrupt the empress? But when they saw that it was Ning Tian, their expressions returned to normal, and they immediately shut their mouths. It's the ancestral master? Then it's fine. Why are you here? Luo Wuqing looked at Ning Tian in confusion. Although Ning Tian was qualified to attend the Tianma cult's meetings, he was never interested. Why did he suddenly come today? Ning Tian didn't say anything and just waved behind him. Soon, all the elders saw Li Changsheng walking in with a disciple covered in blood on his back. Changsheng, what are you doing? The great elder looked at his disciple in confusion. Greetings to your majesty, master, and all the elders. Li Changsheng bowed to the group of people, then smiled bitterly and slowly explained what had just happened. What? Collapsed outside the mountain gate? The group of elders frowned slightly. Yes. Li Changsheng nodded. Elder Huayin kept frowning. He felt that this person was somewhat familiar. Suddenly, his face changed, and he cried out. Isn't this the disciple that my fire hall sent to Tianfeng City? What? This is the disciple that the fire hall sent to Tianfeng City? Hearing this, the group of elders, including Luo Wuqing, frowned. What's going on? Let's not talk about anything else. Let's save him quickly. The great elder frowned and said slowly, this disciple was seriously injured. If they didn't save him, he would lose his life. Yes, great elder. I'll go get the elixir now. Elder Huayin nodded, then got up and walked toward the alchemy pavilion. Wait. Suddenly, a voice rang out in the hall. Elder Huoyin, you don't have to waste your time. I can save him. Huh. The elders were stunned, then looked in the direction of the voice. The person who spoke was Ning Tian. Ancestral Master, this isn't cultivation. Without a certain level of medical skills, you can't save him. The great elder frowned slightly. Although Ning Mo's attainments in cultivation were extremely high, this wasn't cultivation. It was the art of healing. Yes, Ancestral Master, your attainments in cultivation are understandable, but saving a life, I think it's better to let Elder Huoyin get the elixir. The group of elders shook their heads and said to Ning Tian. It wasn't that they looked down on Ning Tian. Ning Tian's attainments in cultivation were indeed very high. However, this was saving a life. The elders had never seen their ancestral master cultivate the art of healing. Don't worry. Ning Tian raised a confident smile on his face and said to the elders, although I can't bring the dead back to life, this kind of injury is still possible. Chapter 71. In the main hall, after hearing Ning Tian's words and seeing that Luo Wuqing didn't object, the group of elders stopped talking. Seeing this, Ning Tian smiled confidently. Changsheng, put him on the ground. Yes, Ancestral Master. Li Changsheng nodded and put the disciple on his back on the ground. As Ning Tian walked over, all the elders' gazes landed on him. Their eyes were filled with curiosity. How does the Ancestral Master want to treat him? Huff. Ning Tian took a deep breath. Then, the spiritual qi of the 20 entertainment path spiritual meridians in his body exploded. Then, a zither made of entertainment path spiritual qi appeared in front of Ning Tian. A zither made of spiritual qi? Seeing this, the group of elders was stunned. Confusion flashed in their eyes. Ancestral Master, this is... They looked curiously at Ning Tian's every move. Oh? Using the entertainment path spiritual meridians? This guy? Don't tell me. Seeing Ning Tian's actions, Luo Wuqing's eyes flashed. She seemed to have thought of something. Under the gaze of everyone in the main hall, Ning Tian slowly pulled the strings of the zither made of spiritual qi. Then, the entertainment path spiritual meridians exploded. The music of life sounded. Accompanied by the heavenly music, the disciple on the ground slowly recovered. Seeing this scene, the first elder and the other elders were all shocked. Entertainment path? The music of healing? Since when did the Ancestral Master know this? This guy really did use the music of healing. Luo Wuqing narrowed her eyes. She was shocked. She didn't expect Ning Tian's learning ability to be so strong. He could learn the music of healing that the Queen Mother of the West left in his body. Perhaps even the Queen Mother of the West didn't expect this. Ning Tian could use this method to learn the music of healing. Accompanied by the heavenly music, the disciple's injuries recovered quickly and showed signs of waking up. Huff! Ning Tian breathed a sigh of relief. The zither made of spiritual qi dissipated. It seemed that he was still not familiar with the joy of healing. You have shocked everyone in the demonic palace. You are rewarded with the body movement assassination martial art, flickering shift, evasive maneuver, combine movement and killing techniques into one, comprehending at 10 times the speed. Comprehension successful. As the system's voice resounded in his mind, Ning Tian had already grasped this movement-killing martial art. He now had one more means of attack. Woo, no, don't kill me. On the ground, that disciple suddenly woke up. This made the elders sigh even more. The Ancestral Master's methods were powerful. After the disciple woke up, he looked around blankly. When he saw Ning Tian, Luo Wuqing, and the others, he immediately felt relieved. Who wants to kill you? Luo Wuqing looked at the disciple indifferently. The disciple was silent for a moment, then immediately bowed to everyone. Tian San, disciple of the Hua Hall of Tianma cult, greets Her Majesty, Ancestral Master, and all the elders. Speak. What happened? Elder Huoyin frowned and said in a serious tone. He vaguely realized that something was wrong. Tian San was still terrified, and his body was trembling non-stop. It's It's Yilong from the Imperial Beast sect who wants to kill me. The people of Tianfeng City, senior brother Li Changda, and the senior brothers from the Hua Hall were all slaughtered by the people from the Imperial Beast sect. Everyone is dead. I only managed to deceive them by mastering the art of feigning death and escaped. Then, Tian San told everyone in the hall everything that had happened. Damn it! Elder Huayan was furious, and a trace of crazy killing intent flowed in his eyes. I must make those bastards from the Imperial Beast sect pay the price. In the main hall, the group of elders gritted their teeth. When Li Changsheng heard that his brother was killed, his eyes turned red, and he was furious. Not only did they slaughter innocent people, but they also hung Li Changda's corpse on the city gate. This was an insult. This grudge must be avenged. At the side, Ning Tian remained silent, but a trace of killing intent flashed in his eyes. When he heard Tian San say that Li Changda promised Sister Tao that he would come to the ancestral master to cultivate after returning from Tianfeng City, he felt even more upset. They were not only the disciples of the Tianma cult, but also his followers. Killing his own followers? Then I'm sorry, Yilong, right? You must die. Damn it. I'll bring people to destroy the Imperial Beast sect. Elder Huayan was furious and got up to leave. No. The Great Elder frowned and stopped Elder Huayan. Great Elder, now that things have come to this, do you want me to swallow this insult? Elder Huayan gritted his teeth and was very angry. They looked down on the Tianma cult. How can I swallow this insult? I know you're angry, and everyone here is angry, but you can't destroy the Imperial Beast sect. The Great Elder gritted his teeth and shook his head. The Imperial Beast sect belongs to the Righteous Alliance. Don't forget that the leader of the Righteous Alliance is also a great emperor. He's no weaker than the Empress. If the Empress shows up, the Imperial Beast sect will naturally show up too. When that happens, the Imperial Beast sect won't be affected at all. Elder Huayan gritted his teeth when he heard the Great Elder's words. The other elders also thought that it made sense. Then what should we do? Don't tell me we're not going to avenge them? The group of elders gritted their teeth. No. The Great Elder shook his head, his eyes flashing. We must avenge them. But it's not up to us to avenge them. We'll use the same method to let the disciples of the cult take revenge. Let our peers do it, even if we kill all the disciples of the Imperial Beast sect. The Righteous Alliance won't say anything. Hearing this, the group of elders nodded. They understood what the Great Elder meant, which was to control the conflict between the younger generation. In this way, no matter how they fought, the great emperors of both sides would not interfere. This way, they could take revenge. If the Empress showed up, the other great emperors would also show up. In this stalemate, there was no way to avenge them. But who should we send? That Yilong is not weak. The group of elders fell silent. Although the heavenly demon cult was powerful, there were very few prodigies in their sect that could be brought out. The 108 palace elders fell silent. Their disciples seemed to be at most in the Earth King realm, and they might not be a match for Yilong. They had to avenge them. However, the question of who to send became a problem. I'll go. At this moment, a voice sounded. The elders looked at Ning Tian in shock. Ancestral Master, you'll go? Ning Tian nodded, a murderous intent flashing in his eyes. How dare you kill my disciples? Bullshit the Righteous Alliance. You must be tired of living. Chapter 72. Ning Tian's words were laced with killing intent, causing all the elders in the hall to tremble. They all looked at Ning Tian. The Ancestral Master seemed really angry. Empress, how should we decide? Grand Elder couldn't make a decision, so he looked at Luo Wuqing and asked, let him go. Luo Wuqing just looked at Ning Tian without saying anything. The Great Elder nodded. Yes, Your Majesty. Then he looked at Ning Tian. Ancestral Master, come with me. I'll choose a disciple for you. There are hundreds of disciples in the school of Imperial Beasts. I'm afraid it won't be easy for you to deal with them alone. Ning Tian didn't reject the offer. He wasn't sure about Yilong's strength. In short, it was better to be cautious, so he wasn't arrogant enough to refuse. Wait. Just then, another voice sounded in the hall. Everyone looked over. Li Changsheng clenched his fists tightly. His eyes were bloodshot, and his words were forced out through gritted teeth. Empress, please let me go with you. I want to avenge Changda. His younger brother had been killed and humiliated. He couldn't take it lying down. Amen, go ahead. Hearing that, Luo Wuqing did not hesitate in the slightest and allowed it. Thank you, Empress. Li Changsheng thanked her. Ancestral Master, Changsheng, come with me, Grand Elder sighed and said to Ning Tian and Li Changsheng, then led them out of the demonic hall. The elders in the demonic hall all looked gloomy. Empress, are you sure you want to let the Ancestral Master go? Elder Hua Yin frowned. That Yilong's strength had already broken through to the Earth King stage a year ago. Now, I'm afraid, yeah. Our Tianma cult can't lose our Ancestral Master. The elders around them nodded in agreement. Today, Ning Tian was almost as important as the Empress in the hearts of the Tianma cult members. The Empress was a symbol of strength and a strong shield for them. As for the Patriarch, he was their guide on the path of cultivation, constantly leading them forward. In fact, he had even become the faith of many disciples. If Ning Tian was unfortunate enough to die at the hands of the school of imperial beasts, then the entire Tianma cult would be plunged into chaos. Don't worry. Luo Wuqing looked indifferent as the corners of his mouth rose slightly. Believe in him. This guy will always bring about different miracles. Luo Wuqing still remembered that those two God Emperor realm experts had died at the hands of Ning Tian. That mysterious great Emperor Phantom was enough to prove that Ning Tian himself was a miracle. Yes. At that, the group of elders in the Great Hall could not help but laugh bitterly when they remembered the shock Ning Tian had brought to the heavenly demon cult recently. Their original worries had also dissipated at this moment. Perhaps the Patriarch really could bring about miracles. Tianma cult, Mountain Gate. The Grand Elder had gathered nearly 100 disciples at the Mountain Gate. These disciples were all hovering around the spirit-detecting realm. Patriarch, Grand Elder, what are we doing here? The disciples were still somewhat puzzled when they were gathered. They all looked at Ning Tian and the Grand Elder in front of them. Killing people. Ning Tian's eyes flashed with a hint of coldness as he spoke indifferently. Killing people? Hearing Ning Tian's words, these disciples were all shocked. Killing people? Killing who? Everyone, be quiet. The Grand Elder waved his hand and then explained the details to the disciples. After hearing this, the disciples froze in place. Then, their eyes became bloodshot. They gritted their teeth and clenched their fists. Damn it! This bunch of bullshit righteous path dares to kill my Tianma cult disciples. Destroy them. And that Yilong. I'm going to chop off his head and pee on it. Revenge. We must take revenge. The 100 Tianma cult disciples gritted their teeth, and a hint of deep anger flashed in their eyes. When they heard that they were going to fight and kill people, they did not retreat. Instead, their eyes were filled with frenzied killing intent, as if they had gone mad. If they did not take revenge, it would be too sullen. Seeing the frenzied killing intent in their eyes, the Grand Elder frowned slightly. If their killing intent got to their heads, it was very likely that they would do something stupid. Just as the Grand Elder was about to speak and remind them, he saw Ning Tian step forward. Everyone. Ning Tian stood high up, and the disciples all looked at him. A hint of coldness flashed in Ning Tian's eyes, and he asked indifferently, "Someone bullied and killed my Tianma cult disciples. Can anyone tell me what the price is?" Death. Those who bullied and killed my Tianma cult disciples must die. The disciples were stirred up. They clenched their fists, and the killing intent in their eyes transformed into a deep desire to fight. Ning Tian continued, "The blood of the Tianma cult disciples cannot be spilled in vain." That's right. The blood of our Tianma cult disciples cannot be spilled in vain. The disciples all shouted loudly. Their voices resounded throughout the entire mountain gate. Seeing that Ning Tian had turned the disciples' killing intent into a desire to fight with just a few words, the Grand Elder admired him from the bottom of his heart. Ancestral Master, The Tiamat cult is about a day's journey from Tianfeng City. Wait for me to bring some demon mounts over to hasten your pace." The Grand Elder walked over and said something to Ning Tian, then turned around and entered the Tiamat cult. Soon after, the Grand Elder returned. He was driving dozens of demon mounts over. Those demon mounts were steeds that were blazing with flames and as fast as the wind. Ancestral Master, these are second-order flaming windchaser horses. As the first elder spoke, he led the most robust one of the demonic horse horde over. "It's a good horse." Ning Tian glanced at the flaming windchaser horse, and a hint of admiration flashed across his eyes. The flaming windchaser horse's combat power may be lacking, but it's extremely fast. "It should be able to send you to Tianfeng City in half a day," the Grand Elder said. "Half a day." Hearing this, Ning Tian narrowed his eyes slightly. Immediately, he turned around and leaped onto the flaming windchaser horse. Although the flaming windchaser horse was covered in flames, its saddle was specially made, so there was no need to worry about its but catching fire while riding. Hiss! The horse neighed. The flaming windchaser horse raised its front and neighed. After taming the flaming windchaser horse, Ning Tian looked at Li Changsheng and the other disciples, his eyes cold. "Get on the horse and follow me to Tianfeng City to kill." "Yes, Master." "Yes, Ancestral Master." Li Changsheng and the other disciples nodded, their eyes filled with murderous intent as they leaped onto their horses. Hiss! The flaming windchaser horses neighed angrily. "Let's go." Target, Tianfeng City. In an instant, as Ning Tian's voice fell, the flaming windchaser horse stepped forward. The Inferno windchaser horse instantly took a step forward. When it appeared again, it was already dozens of meters away. The flames on its body burned fiercely. Then, everyone followed suit. From afar, it looked like a ball of burning flames. Chapter 73. Soon, Ning Tian and his group left the Tiamat cult's territory as if they were riding on flames. They passed by many forces, and the disciples of these forces all made way for them. Are those flaming windchaser horses? Are they part of the Tiamat cult's mounts? What are they going to do? Seeing the Tiamat cult's disciples leaving so aggressively, many people were secretly shocked. It didn't seem like they were carrying out an ordinary sect mission. Many people were gloating over his misfortune. Who dares to provoke the Tiamat cult? Who's so fearless? Half a day later, the sky was getting dark. Chilly Wind Mountains. A huge ball of flame flashed through the forest, like a deadly will-o'-the-wisp. "Ancestral Master, we'll reach Tianfeng City in a few miles." Li Changsheng rode a horse and approached Ning Tian. Ning Tian nodded. These flaming windchaser horses were just as the Grand Elder said. Not only were they extremely fast, but they also had great endurance. "This is the Chilly Wind Mountains, right?" Ning Tian looked around. They were surrounded by mountain ranges and chilly winds blew. There were deep mountains and old forests everywhere. It was very strange. This is only the outermost part of the Chilly Wind Mountains." Li Changxing nodded and looked at the Chilly Wind Mountains. The Chilly Wind Mountains are tens of thousands of miles long. Even in the whole Tianling realm, it's a relatively large mountain range. "I see." Ning Tian nodded, and a glimmer of light flashed in his eyes as he looked at the mountains. As the saying goes, there are many hidden treasures in the deep mountains. He wondered if there were any hidden treasures in the Chilly Wind Mountains. The group walked a few more miles towards Tianfeng City. At this moment, they smelled a bloody stench that assailed their nostrils. This strong smell of blood, and Tianfeng City is in front of us. The group of disciples gritted their teeth as their eyes turned red. This strong smell of blood was most likely coming from Tianfeng City. They were still a few miles away from Tianfeng City. The strong smell of blood could be smelled from miles away. One could only imagine what kind of tragedy Tianfeng City had gone through. Though, roar, there were already many demonic beasts gathered in the surroundings, and waves of hissing sounds could be heard. Not good, demonic beasts are also bloodthirsty. The smell of blood is a delicious meal for these demonic beasts. Li Changsheng seemed to have thought of something, and his face suddenly changed. The expressions of the surrounding Tianma cult disciples also changed. Could it be that after their senior and junior brothers died, they couldn't even keep a complete corpse? Damn it! A group of Tianma cult disciples gritted their teeth in anger. Then let's speed up, Ning Tian said. But there are more and more demonic beasts around us. Li Changsheng looked around with an ugly expression. Around them, many demonic beasts had already gathered. There were at least hundreds of them. Wanting to charge through this group of demon beasts was undoubtedly an extremely dangerous and irrational action. Don't worry. Ning Tian shook his head and looked at some of the demonic beasts in front of him. He said calmly, "It's just some rank 1 demonic beasts. Just charge straight ahead." After he finished speaking, he patted the back of his horse. The remaining Inferno Windchaser horse instantly exploded with great speed and charged towards the group of demonic beasts in front of him. Hiss! With a hiss, hundreds of demonic beasts roared in unison. Seeing that the human dared to charge towards them on a horse, the hundreds of demonic beasts were enraged and charged towards him as well. Boom! The ground trembled at this moment. Seeing this, Li Changsheng laughed bitterly, then shouted to the group of disciples behind him, "Let's go. We'll follow the ancestral master." The group of people chased after Ning Tian's footsteps. Ning Tian, on the other hand, took the lead. Facing the hundreds of demonic beasts charging towards him, his expression was calm, without the slightest hint of fear. A hint of coldness flashed in Ning Tian's eyes, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. "Just in time to test out my new martial art on you." Then, the 20 entertainment Dao spiritual meridians began to operate. Once again, it formed a spirit qi guzheng. Ning Tian's Dao of entertainment could not only save people, but also kill people. 2 of his fingers landed on the strings of the spirit qi guzheng. Then, he plucked. Clang! The sound of the guzheng was heard. Heaven Melody Kill activate. Seeing Ning Tian's actions, Li Changsheng and the rest were stunned, and a hint of astonishment flashed in their eyes. What was the ancestral master trying to do? Play the guzheng? Everyone's eyes were filled with confusion. However, at this moment, as the guzheng music sounded, the ancient rhymes of the Tao of entertainment turned into invisible blades. In an instant, the group of demonic beasts charging at the front were sliced into countless pieces. F***C. How did the ancestral master do that? Seeing this scene, Li Changsheng and the rest of the disciples widened their eyes. Their eyes were filled with deep shock. The ancestral master could kill demonic beasts while riding a horse and playing the guzheng. Cool. Clang. The guzheng music sounded again. Ning Tian plucked the strings, and in an instant, it turned into a gust of wind to kill. 100 rank 1 demonic beasts were killed in the blink of an eye. So strong. Li Changsheng's eyes widened. Although he was also an Earth King powerhouse, he knew that even if he could kill these demonic beasts, it would not be as easy as the ancestral master. You have shocked Li Changsheng and the rest. Reward: Spirit Qi Cultivation plus 100. Let's go. Ning Tian waved his hand gently, and the spirit qi dissipated, and the guzheng music stopped. Li Changsheng and the rest recovered from the shock and quickly followed Ning Tian's footsteps. A few minutes later, outside Tianfeng City, Ning Tian and the rest rode on their horses and stood outside Tianfeng City in a daze. The smell of blood assailed their nostrils, making many disciples feel like vomiting, but they endured it. Their noses were sour, and their eyes were red as they looked at the city gate. On the city gate, 2 corpses were tied to the city wall with hemp ropes. A gust of cold wind blew, and the corpses moved with the wind. It was a tragic sight. That's Li Changda, senior brother Li, and senior sister Peach. A group of Tianma cult disciples gritted their teeth, and their eyes were filled with anger. Imperial Beast Sect, and that Yi Long, I want you dead. I want you dead. Looking at his brother's miserable state, Li Changsheng clenched his fists. His fingernails dug into his flesh, and blood flowed continuously, but he did not care. There was only a crazy desire to kill Yi Long in his heart. Ning Tian remained silent. His head was lowered, and no one could see his expression. He got off his horse and walked step by step toward the city gate. Until now, the blood had not completely dried up, and some was still flowing out of the city. All the Tiamat cult disciples looked at Ning Tian. He walked to the city gate, leaped out, and removed the 2 corpses from the city gate, and carefully placed them on the ground. At this moment, Li Changsheng and the other disciples got off their horses and walked over. They looked at the 2 corpses, and then at the piles of corpses and rivers of blood in the city. The group of people gritted their teeth, and the murderous intent in their hearts reached its peak. Chapter 74. Inside the city. Sure enough, there were monsters gnawing on some corpses. Many of the corpses were missing limbs. Li Changsheng tilted his head and said to a disciple beside him, "Linny, take a few dozen disciples and kill all the monsters in the city." "Yes, senior brother Li." Linny nodded with a sullen face. Then, he led a group of disciples with swords and walked toward a group of monsters. What followed was a fierce battle. Every disciple of the Tianma cult was extremely angry. They couldn't find the Tianma cult disciples, so the monsters gnawing on the corpses of the Tianma cult disciples became the target of their anger. The battle was almost one-sided. On the city wall, looking at Li Changda's corpse, Li Changsheng's face was filled with grief. He was silent, but his eyes were already red. He squatted down, ignoring the blood, and held Li Changda's corpse in his arms. Suddenly, a bloody ball of cloth fell from Li Changda's sleeve. Ning Tian picked it up and unfolded it. There were 4 words written on it. "Ancestral Master is awesome." Ning Tian frowned and looked at Li Changsheng in confusion. "What's this?" "This?" Li Changsheng was stunned. His eyes filled with grief. "This is Changda's blessing. He always told me that if I shout 'Ancestral Master is awesome,' I'll be blessed." So, he wrote these 4 words on the ball of cloth. When he went out on a mission, these 4 words might protect him. But this time it seems to be useless. Hearing this, Ning Tian fell silent. He squatted down, carefully folded the ball of cloth with the 4 words written on it, and put it in Li Changda's sleeve. Then, Ning Tian stood up and looked at Li Changsheng. "Changsheng, find the corpses of all the Tianma cult disciples and bring them back to the Tianma cult. They are members of the Tianma cult. Even if they are dead, they should be buried in the Tianma cult." Li Changda's expression changed as he nodded heavily. Then, he carefully placed Li Changda's body next to his sister Tao's body. After doing all this, he called out to the disciples who had finished killing the demonic beasts to clean up the corpses of the Tianma cult disciples. According to the patriarch's words, they were born as members of the Tianma cult, and when they died, they would be ghosts of the Tianma cult. They couldn't be casually buried, or else it would chill their hearts. After the group of disciples heard this, they were all moved. They admired Ning Tian even more. They all began to move. However, no one noticed that above the city wall, a dragon flashed past, and Ning Tian had already disappeared without a trace. In the deep forest of the Chill Wind mountain range, a black shadow flickered, like the god of death. Ning Tian had already changed into a set of black clothes. Using the swimming dragon steps, he constantly flashed through the forest. The Chill Wind mountain range was so big that it was impossible for him to search brainlessly. Since the other party was the Imperial Beast sect, there would be an obvious mark. That was on the ground. There would be more or less footprints of humans and demonic beasts. As long as he could find these footprints, it would be easy to find the Imperial Beast sect. Very soon, as Ning Tian continued his relentless search, he soon found footprints of humans and demonic beasts not far from Tianfeng City. Did they go to the depths of the Chill Wind mountain range? Ning Tian looked in that direction, and a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Immediately, his body turned into a black shadow, like a ghost. At this moment, he didn't use the swimming dragon steps. Instead, he used the flash footwork of the flash martial art. Night. The threat was constantly approaching. A black shadow flickered among the leaves, but strangely, it didn't make any sound. This was the flash footwork of the flash footwork. The flash footwork of the flash footwork was originally a martial art of the flash footwork. It was specially made for assassins in the night. After a long time, the footprints on the ground were getting deeper and deeper, which meant that he was getting closer and closer to the people of the Imperial Beast sect. In front of him, there seemed to be a flickering fire, and he could vaguely hear the sound of boys and girls playing. Finally, I've found you. As soon as he finished speaking, Ning Tian's figure merged into the darkness. In front of him, a group of Imperial Beast sect disciples surrounded a bonfire in the middle of the forest, looking very relaxed. Yilong sat in the middle, with two female disciples lying in his arms. Ha ha ha. Today, thanks to Senior Brother Yi, I've also killed several Tianma cult disciples. I should be able to exchange them for a yellow rank martial art. Beside the bonfire, a disciple of the Imperial Beast sect laughed with excitement. Me too. I've killed at least 2 of them. It's a pity that those old, weak, sick, and disabled people can't be considered as real Tianma cult disciples. Otherwise, I'd be able to exchange them for a profound rank martial art or cultivation method after killing a dozen of them. A disciple shook his head with a look of pity. Ha ha ha. Who isn't? Those guys were begging for mercy before they died. It felt so good to hear them. People from the diabolism deserve to die. The group of Imperial Beast sect disciples laughed loudly. Thinking back to yesterday's massacre, even if they killed some innocent people, their eyes were only filled with excitement and murderous intent. It was as if they would kill anyone who mentioned the diabolism, whether they were right or wrong. Ha. Yilong smiled faintly, then hugged a female disciple next to him in his arms and groped her up and down. When the female disciple blushed and begged for mercy, he laughed and let her go. Then, he looked at the group of disciples. They're just a few pieces of trash from the Tianma cult. Don't worry about them. Before that piece of trash died, he even said that a legendary patriarch could kill me. What a joke. His words instantly caused the surrounding disciples to flatter him. Senior Brother Yi, how can those gigolos who rely on women compare to you? A legendary patriarch? Bah, I think it's better to call him a gigolo's patriarch. A disciple spat disdainfully. Ha ha ha. Yes, we'll call him a gigolo's patriarch from now on. His words instantly caused the surrounding people to laugh. Hee. When the disciple saw that his words had gained the approval of the crowd, he chuckled. Suddenly, he felt a strong urge to pee. Senior Brother Yilong, I'm going to relieve myself, he hurriedly said to Yilong. Yilong waved his hand, then continued hugging the female disciple next to him and did something else. After getting Yilong's permission, the disciple breathed a sigh of relief. He quickly got up and walked toward a small forest. Splash! Splash! As the sound of rushing water was heard, the disciple sighed in satisfaction. It feels good to relieve myself. He looked satisfied and was about to pull up his pants when he suddenly felt a chill on his back. The next moment, a leaf mixed with spiritual energy suddenly enlarged in his pupils. The school of Imperial Beast's disciple didn't even have the chance to scream before he fell to the ground. On his forehead, there was a leaf filled with remnant spiritual energy. A black shadow flashed by and once again entered the night. One more. Chapter 75. In the dark night, Ning Tian hid in a tree. He activated the celestial god record and completely isolated his aura. Even Yilong could not sense his presence. His gaze was fixed on the figure in the bonfire not far away from him. In this group of people, other than Yilong, there were 2 one-star Earth King Realm disciples. As for Yilong, Ning Tian estimated that his strength was between 4 and 5-star Earth King Realm. If he wanted to kill all of them, he could not fight them head-on. He had to kill them one by one in the dark. And before he could deal with Yilong, he had to deal with the 2 Earth King Realm disciples. He slowly looked up at the sky. The bright moon provided a faint ray of light, but he was waiting. He was waiting for the dark clouds to cover the moon. That would be the time to strike. The group of people from the school of Imperial Beasts did not realize that the disciple had not returned yet. By the way, Senior Brother Yi, we've killed so many Tianma cult disciples. It's enough to exchange for a lot of good stuff. Is there still a need to go to the Chill Wind Mountains? A school of Imperial Beasts disciple looked at Yilong. Of course there is. Yilong snorted heavily and pushed away the female disciple in his arms. There's been a demonic beast riot in the Chill Wind Mountains recently. There must be treasures in there. His eyes flashed with greed. A few Tianma cult disciples are nothing. The treasures in the Chill Wind Mountains are what I want. At this point, Yilong's eyes flashed coldly. What? You don't want to go with me? Hearing this, the group of disciples was stunned. Their faces changed and fear flashed in their eyes. No, no, no. Everyone shook their heads. Even if Senior Brother Yi wants us to climb a mountain of swords or dive into a sea of fire, we won't even frown. That's right, that's right. Humph. Yilong coldly snorted and pulled back the female disciple that he had pushed away, treating her like a plaything. This female disciple did not dare to complain and continued to serve Yilong with all her might. This senior brother Yilong was famous for being cruel and cold-blooded. No one dared to provoke him, not even his fellow disciples. After a while, finally, a disciple realized that the disciple who went to relieve himself had not returned. That guy Gooden, he couldn't have been taken away by a demonic beast, right? He hasn't come back yet. You guys, go take a look. Yilong frowned and pointed at the disciples. Yes, understood, Senior Brother Yi. Several people stood up. At this moment, dark clouds covered the moon. Whoosh! Suddenly, a gust of cold wind blew. Then, the burning bonfire was suddenly extinguished. What's the situation? The disciples of the school of Imperial Beasts were shocked. Dark clouds covered the sun, and there was no fire. It was pitch black all around, and they couldn't even see their own fingers. Don't panic. In the dark night, Yilong's displeased voice rang out. Isn't it just dark? Look at your cowardly faces. No one noticed that a black shadow flashed past them. It was silent, like an evil spirit that had turned into a ghost. There was a faint smell of blood in the air. Do you guys smell something? One of them asked. It smells like blood. Suddenly, there was a scream. What? What's going on? Who the F***CK is screaming? Don't scare us. The disciples of the school of Imperial Beasts were panicking. At this moment, the dark clouds dissipated, and the moonlight shone down again. A black shadow instantly flashed back into the forest. Everything was silent. With the moonlight, the people of the school of Imperial Beasts finally saw what had happened. On the ground, dozens of disciples of the school of Imperial Beasts were lying in a pool of blood. The female disciples screamed incessantly. The rest of them were also in a state of panic. What the hell is going on? Yilong frowned and said calmly, Don't panic. There must be some demonic beast causing trouble in the dark. Everyone, gather together and light the fire. Hearing Yilong's words, the group of people quickly split into a few groups and gathered together. Then, they started to use the fire. However, at this moment, they realized that the fire could not be lit. In the sky, dark clouds covered the moon again. Everyone's hearts tightened. Without the flames, all of you should gather together and circulate your spiritual energy to defend yourselves. Yilong bellowed. However, he felt extremely frustrated. In this place where there was no light at all, he was like a blind man. The only thing he could do was to defend. In the dark, seeing a group of people gathering together, Ning Tian's lips curled up slightly. What's the use of gathering together? Evasive maneuver. Flash kill. In an instant, Ning Tian turned into a demon and rushed into the crowd of disciples of the school of Imperial Beasts. He had evasive maneuver, a movement technique that could lock onto the enemy even if he could not see. Next, the nightmare of the disciples of the school of Imperial Beasts began. Every time dark clouds covered the moon, there would be a disciple who would be silently killed in the dark. When they could see again and wanted to fight back, there was no one around them. They could not even sense the aura. This made Yilong very frustrated. He had strength, but he could not use it. In absolute fear, the The group of disciples of the school of imperial beasts thought that the ghosts of the Tianma cult disciples they killed yesterday had come to seek revenge. Each and every one of them was terrified. Some were even scared to the point of incontinence. No one knew if they would be the next to die. And every time they attacked, Ning Tian would silently record the number of people. The number of disciples of the school of imperial beasts was decreasing. 28th, 66th, 109th. In the dark, Ning Tian attacked again and again. When he killed 130 people, he stopped. Because he had counted before, there were only 131 people in the school of imperial beasts, and the last one was Yilong. When the dark clouds dissipated and Yilong could see again, he broke out in a cold sweat. Around him were still the corpses of the disciples of the school of imperial beasts. Damn it! What the hell is going on? Yilong gritted his teeth and swallowed his saliva with difficulty. This arrogant genius of the school of imperial beasts was actually filled with fear at this moment. It was too strange. It was too strange. Every time the dark clouds covered the moon, a disciple would die, and he could do nothing about it. Oh, a genius of the school of imperial beasts can be afraid? At this moment, a sneer was heard. Yilong was like a bird startled by the twang of a bow. He turned around abruptly. Behind him, a black shadow was walking toward him step by step like the god of death. Who are you? Yilong swallowed hard and took a few steps back. Ning Tian raised his head. A murderous intent flashed in his eyes. The person who will kill you. Chapter 76. Kill my men? Hearing Ning Tian's indifferent words, Yilong shuddered as a gust of cold wind blew. He gritted his teeth and pointed at the corpses of the imperial beast sect disciples. He looked coldly at Ning Tian and asked, "Did you kill them all? Don't worry. You'll die with them soon." Ning Tian looked indifferent as he spoke slowly. Yilong laughed with disdain. At this moment, he'd sensed Ning Tian's strength, and it was at most 3 stars of the Earth King realm. He, on the other hand, was at 5 stars of the Earth King stage. Yilong looked up at the sky. The dark clouds had dissipated, and the full moon was hanging in the sky. It was obvious that the moon would not be covered by dark clouds for a long time. Brat, even the heavens won't help you now. Let's see how you're going to ambush and kill people in the dark. With the dark clouds no longer covering the moon, Yilong was suddenly filled with confidence. He thought that the brat in front of him was able to kill so many of them in such a short time. He had relied on the dark clouds covering the moon, preventing them from seeing clearly, to launch a sneak attack that succeeded. Yilong had absolute confidence in a head-on battle. In the next moment, Yilong didn't intend to give Ning Tian any chance. A powerful spiritual energy exploded from his body. After that, his figure transformed into a black shadow that charged towards Ning Tiansong. "Ga, brat, you can die now." Yilong's eyes were filled with murderous intent. His fist glowed red and was filled with critical hit intent. Advanced Mystic Martial Arts, Critical Hit Fist. Boom. The sound of the air being torn apart was heard. As the fist intent gathered, it was as if the air was being torn apart. Seeing this, Ning Tian stood in his original spot as if he was waiting for him to come over. There was no fear in his eyes, and a confident smile appeared on his face. Seeing this, Yilong's heart skipped a beat. Why didn't this brat dodge? However, at this moment, he had already thrown out his fist. There was no reason to take it back. Who said that I can only sneak attack in the dark? Ning Tian's indifferent voice sounded. Then, there was an explosion in his body. That monstrous spiritual chi soared into the sky, and an enormous spiritual ocean appeared behind him. Over the past few days, Ning Tian's strength had only risen to 2 stars of the Earth King stage, which was not as strong as Yilong's. However, the density of the spiritual energy was something that even 10 Yilongs could not compare to. Boom. Yilong's eyes widened when he saw the enormous spirit sea behind Ning Tian. His eyes were filled with deep shock. Was he really an Earth King realm expert? Even the spiritual energy of a Saint Emperor realm expert was far from being as vast as this spiritual ocean. Don't get distracted during the battle. I have a killer move. Demonic beast gored out. As soon as he finished speaking, a ball of black light flashed in Yilong's hand. A purple gold gourd appeared in his hand. High-level spiritual weapon? Ning Tian's eyes flashed. Then, the demonic beast gourd shook. Then, balls of light of various sizes appeared and rushed out. The balls of light fell to the ground. In the blink of an eye, they turned into ferocious demonic beasts. So, that is a spiritual weapon to store demonic beasts. No wonder I didn't find any demonic beasts just now. Looking at the purple gold gourd in Yilong's hand, Ning Tian narrowed his eyes. Just now, he wanted to get rid of the demonic beasts of the Imperial Beast Sect before dealing with the disciples of the Imperial Beast Sect. However, after looking around, there was not even a shadow of a demonic beast. It turned out that they were all hidden in the demonic beast gourd. Humph! Almost 100 demonic beasts stood behind Yilong. He was instantly emboldened. Although he had just been punched by Ning Tian and his chest was still aching, he was wary of Ning Tian's strength. However, now that there were demonic beasts, he regained his confidence instantly. Ning Tian, you should know that the combat power of the disciples of the Imperial Beast Sect is completely different after they have demonic beasts. Prepare to die. Yilong sneered. Then, he took out a flute from his pocket, put it to his mouth, and began to play. The most common way to control demonic beasts was to use the way of music to control demonic beasts' thoughts. When the flute sounded, the hundreds of demonic beasts behind Yilong all had a flash of red in their eyes. Their actions were surprisingly uniform. Seeing this, Yilong sneered. He put down the flute and shouted, "Go! Tear this kid to pieces!" Roar! Roar! Hiss! In an instant, the eyes of the hundreds of demonic beasts behind him flashed red. They roared and charged toward Ning Tian. Chapter 77. Kid, let's see how you're going to block this. Yilong's eyes flashed coldly. Then, he placed the flute next to his mouth and played wildly. The sound of the flute was filled with violence, and the monsters were filled with violence. The faster he played the flute, the faster the monsters moved. The rank 3 armored black bear rushed to the front. In the blink of an eye, it was in front of Ning Tian. "Humph! You're dead meat." Yilong snorted coldly in his heart. The murderous intent in his eyes intensified, and the sound of the flute became more and more violent. Suddenly, Yilong's pupil shrank as he looked at Ning Tian. Ning Tian actually sat down cross-legged in front of the incoming horde of monstrous beasts. Then, a zither made of spiritual energy appeared and was placed on his legs. His hands reached out to touch the zither strings. At this moment, Yilong had a bad premonition. This kid, don't tell me clang. In the next moment, the sound of the zither resounded throughout the forest. The sound of the flute that Yilong played with great difficulty was instantly interrupted. Without the sound of the flute, the red light in the eyes of the monsters under his control dissipated instantly. Roar? Even the armored black bear was stunned. The red light in its eyes dissipated. It scratched its head and let out a puzzled sound. Who is it? Where is this? What is it doing? The group of demonic beasts that had woken up from the sound of the flute were all in a state of confusion at this moment. What? Yilong exclaimed. He looked at Ning Tian, who was playing the zither continuously, and gritted his teeth. The legendary patriarch of the Tianma cult also knew the sound of the Tao of entertainment. Damn it! Is this guy trying to use other Tao of entertainment to interfere with my control of the monsters? But you think too simply of me. A cold light flashed in Yilong's eyes. Then, he took a deep breath and began to play the flute again. The sound of the flute and the music of the zither collided continuously. Only the group of demonic beasts in the middle were dumbfounded. The red glow in his eyes disappeared and returned. In one moment, his mind was clear, and in the next moment, his face was blank. Roar! 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 After a while, the zither music slowly stopped, and the flute music instantly took over. After the hellish torment, the eyes of the group of demonic beasts were once again filled with a scarlet color. Roar. The armored black bear's furious roar seemed to be filled with relief. Holy H*T, I'm finally free. Brat, it seems like I'm still the one who's suffering. When he saw Ning Tian stop, Yulong smiled proudly. However, he seemed to have paid a heavy price for this victory. Due to blowing too hard, his lips were swollen like sausages. You really think you've won? Ning Tian glanced at Yulong's sausage-like mouth and said indifferently. Yulong sneered. It's just that you can't afford to lose. However, Ning Tian's next words made Yulong's expression change. Don't tell me you didn't realize that I was playing the zither one note at a time? What? Yulong was stunned. He frowned and thought back to what had happened. Then, his expression changed drastically. He seemed to have remembered. Just now, Ning Tian's zither music seemed to have been playing the zither one note at a time and never connected them together. That's right. Ning Tian just used Yulong to familiarize himself with the music Tao of the Sound of Beasts. Your music Tao of the Sound of Beasts is too bad. Ning Tian's hand returned to the zither with spirit energy. A glint flashed in his eyes. Next, I'll teach you what the music Tao of Beasts is. What? Impossible. Yulong's expression changed and he immediately denied. You can't possibly know the music Tao of Beasts. That's me. Clang. Before Yulong could finish his sentence, he heard the sound of zither music. Then, the red light in the eyes of the 100 beasts instantly dissipated and turned into a firm black light. What? Music Tao of Beasts. You know it too? Yulong was stunned at this moment. Immediately, he reacted. Without caring about his sausage-like mouth, he directly picked up the flute and began to play, trying to regain control of the beasts. However, the black light in the eyes of the beasts was firm and not affected at all. Just like the zither music, it was indestructible like a boulder. Hiss! Yulong gasped. His music Tao of Beasts was actually not comparable to Ning Tian's music Tao of Beasts. Yulong, your retribution is here. Ning Tian looked coldly at Yulong. His words were like the declaration of the Grim Reaper. At this moment, his fingers were constantly changing and the zither music was filled with murderous intent. Roar! In merely an instant, the 100 demonic beasts instantly changed sides and charged ferociously towards Yulong. Amongst them, the strongest, the armored black bear, was still the fastest. Seeing the strongest beasts that he had in the past charging towards him, Yulong's face turned gloomy. He felt as if he had eaten *T originally. It was a trump card that he used to deal with Ning Tian. However, it had now become a weapon to deal with him. Even if he wanted to use the demonic beast gourd to recall the beasts, he could not do so because the beasts were no longer under his control. Roar! Roar! In an instant, a group of beasts charged towards him, accompanied by the zither music that was filled with murderous intent. Seeing this, Yulong had no other choice. He could only circulate his spiritual energy to kill the beasts and protect himself. In the forest, Ning Tian sat cross-legged with the zither on his lap. The murderous music continued to play as the group of beasts charged towards Yulong, casually playing the zither to kill someone with a borrowed knife. How cool! Most importantly, this knife was borrowed from Yulong himself. Clang, clang, clang. The music of the guzheng and the sound of taming beasts continued to play. Under the control of the music Tao of Slaughter, these demonic beasts charged at Yulong fearlessly. Yulong retreated in defeat. Fresh blood continued to flow from his body. However, he continued to kill the beasts. 10 minutes later, Yulong's knife ended the life of the armored black bear with a single slash. He was covered in blood and fell to the ground weakly. Now, he was seriously injured and on the verge of death. Clang! The zither music also stopped at this moment. Ning Tian waved his hand gently and the zither dissipated. He slowly got up and walked towards Yulong. How is it? How does it feel to be defeated by the way of beast taming that you are so proud of? Ning Tian looked indifferent as he looked down at Yilong. You? Yilong's face was extremely ugly. He was already seriously injured. When he heard Ning Tian's words, he instantly spat out a mouthful of blood. You, what are you doing? Before he could wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth, he was shocked to see a flaming sword appear in Ning Tian's hand. Chapter 78. Ning Tian didn't say anything. His expression was cold. The scarlet heaven sword in his hand had changed as his strength increased. Although there was still rust on the sword, it was much less than before. Furthermore, the flames on his sword had clearly become even denser. He held the scarlet heaven sword in his hand and looked down at Yilong, who was lying on the ground. A cold, murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Then, he stabbed the sword into Yilong's chest. Slash. This stab is for the people of Tianfeng City. This stab is for my Tianma cult disciple. Slash. One stab, another stab. Cold sweat dripped down Yilong's forehead as he screamed in agony. This stab is for Peach. This stab is for Li Changda. You killed my disciple. I want your life. The murderous intent in Ning Tian's eyes didn't diminish. He looked at Yilong's arms and swung his sword. Under the two flames, the sword flashed. In an instant, Yilong's arms fell to the side and blood flowed out. Kill me. I beg you, kill me. At this moment, Yilong couldn't bear the pain anymore. He begged Ning Tian to give him a quick death. Kill you? Ning Tian sneered. A cold glint flashed in his eyes. When you killed my Tianma cult disciple, did you give him a quick death? He had already checked. Li Changda wasn't the only one. There were at least hundreds of sword wounds on the bodies of the other disciples. These wounds weren't fatal, but they could inflict fatal pain. Yilong had used this method to slowly torture the Tianma cult disciples to death. Hearing Ning Tian's words, Yilong was instantly stunned. His eyes were filled with deep despair. You can't escape. This is your price, and also your life. Ning Tian glanced at Yilong indifferently and slowly raised his sword. How did you treat the disciples of my Tianma cult? I'll make you pay back 100 times, 1,000 times over. The disciples of the Tianma cult aren't that easy to kill. At this moment, the genius disciple of the school of imperial beasts was actually trembling nonstop. His eyes were filled with deep despair. Following that, screams of despair began to ring out from the forest. Tianfeng City. Li Chongqing heaved a sigh of relief. Looking at the piles of corpses that were packed into body bags, his eyes were filled with gloom. Senior brother Li, we've almost cleaned up all the bloodstains in Wind City. Linny walked over and said to Li Chongqing. Good. Li Chongqing nodded and looked at the entire Tianfeng City. It's about time. Go and inform the ancestral master. We can now go and settle the score with those bastards from the school of imperial beasts. Linny nodded, a murderous intent flashing in his eyes. Finally, he could go and find those bastards from the school of imperial beasts. Immediately, he turned around and walked into the city, hoping to find Ning Tian. But after a while, he returned to Li Chongqing's side, looking somewhat flustered. Li Chongqing saw him return and couldn't help but frown. Linny, why are you back again? Senior brother Li, this is bad. The ancestral master is missing. Lin Yi's face was a little pale as he said in a low voice. What? The ancestral master is missing? Li Chongqing's face changed drastically, and he swallowed hard. My dear ancestral master, please don't run around. If something happens to you, how are we going to explain it to the Empress? At this moment, Li Chongqing was panicking. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and find him. We have to find the ancestral master, even if we have to search the entire Ill Wind Mountain range. Li Chongqing gritted his teeth and said in a low voice. Yes. Lin Yi's heart was beating wildly. The ancestral master was missing. A living person had actually disappeared without a trace. This wasn't *King surprise, it was a shock. Just as Li Changsheng was about to lead the other disciples to look for Ning Tian, a voice rang out. Don't look for him. I'm here. The ancestral master? Li Changsheng was stunned when he heard the familiar voice. Then, a huge weight was lifted from his heart. He didn't even dare to imagine what would happen to the ancestral master. How crazy would the entire Tianma cult be if that happened? At this moment, a group of Tianma cult disciples gathered around. Ning Tian's figure appeared on the city wall. He seemed to be holding something in his hand. Bang! Ning Tian threw the thing over. It landed on the ground with a dull thud. What was that? Li Changsheng and the other disciples looked over curiously. Their expressions changed instantly when they saw it. It was a young man who was covered in blood. He was barely breathing and had lost his hands. Ancestral master. He is? Li Changsheng frowned slightly and looked at Ning Tian on the city wall. The other disciples also looked at him in confusion. Ning Tian jumped down from the city wall. He glanced at Yilong on the ground and said calmly, the young master of the school of imperial beasts, Yilong? Yilong? What? Yilong from the school of imperial beasts? At first, everyone was stunned. However, when they heard the words young master of the school of imperial beasts, they immediately reacted. This guy, who was almost reduced to a human stick, was the young master of the school of imperial beasts, Yilong? Hiss! Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Li Changsheng gulped as he looked at Ning Tian and asked, Patriarch, what did you do just now? Oh, Ning Tian said calmly, I was in a bad mood. So I went for a walk and killed a bunch of people. Hiss! Killed people while taking a walk? Although Ning Tian said it casually, how could Li Changsheng and the others not understand that their ancestral master had single-handedly wiped out hundreds of people from the school of imperial beasts? He single-handedly wiped out hundreds of people. Moreover, Yilong and many other beasts were among them. However, not only did their ancestral master return in a carefree manner, but he was also uninjured and not stained with blood. How did their ancestral master do it? In an instant, Li Changsheng and the others' understanding of Ning Tian rose to a whole new level. Their ancestral master could not be measured by the strength of an ordinary Earth King. You have shocked Li Changsheng and the others. You are rewarded with 5,000 spiritual energy cultivation points. When the system's voice fell, Ning Tian immediately felt a huge amount of spiritual energy appear in his body. The battle just ended. Now that the huge amount of spiritual energy entered his body, he instantly felt that he was about to break through. Then, Ning Tian looked at Li Changsheng and the others. This guy isn't dead yet. I left his legs on purpose to make him kneel to the undead. Watch for yourselves. Then, he leaped onto the city wall, sat down cross-legged, and began his breakthrough. Hearing this, killing intent flashed in Li Changsheng and the others' eyes as they looked at Yilong. At this moment, Yilong's heart was about to break down. The torment came so quickly. Chapter 79. A few minutes later, Yilong had lost his vitality and was kneeling in front of the gates of Tianfeng City. He had ordered the corpses of Li Changda and Sister Tao to be hung above the city gates and exposed to the sun for a day. Now, it was the cycle of the heavens. He would also have to pay the price for his actions. Changda, Taozi, this is a consolation for you. Li Changsheng looked at Yilong's corpse, his eyes filled with grief. The dead could not be brought back to life. This was the only thing he could do. Let's go find the ancestral master, Li Changsheng said, and left with a group of grieving disciples of the Tianma cult. Although they had gotten their revenge, they still could not feel happy. That was because a dead person was still a dead person. What they had lost could not be regained. Li Changsheng and his group entered Tianfeng City. Senior Brother Li, what is the ancestral master doing? When they saw Ning Tian sitting cross-legged on the city wall, waves of moonlight sprinkled on his body as if he was wearing a silver sheen, they could not help but ask it curiously. When Li Changsheng saw the scene on Ning Tian's body, he was slightly dazed. After a while, he came back to his senses. The ancestral master has broken through again. Be quiet, he said to the disciples beside him. Broke through again? Hearing Li Changxing's words, the surrounding disciples were stunned. A hint of astonishment flashed in their eyes. One by one, they began to whisper among themselves. The ancestral master's breakthrough speed is so fast. Of course. Otherwise, why would everyone say that the ancestral master will always be a god? The ancestral master is awesome. Do you really think that it's just a shout? Hee, you're right. The ancestral master is awesome. The group of disciples' burning gazes were all on Ning Tian. After a while, Ning Tian's body was rising steadily, like a hot knife through butter. Congratulations to the host for breaking through. You are now a 3-star Earth King. As the system's voice fell, the spiritual energy that Ning Tian was constantly emitting from his body was constantly being retracted. Phew! Ning Tian opened his eyes, exhaled a mouthful of turbid air, and slowly got up. Seeing that Li Changxing and the others were looking at him, he asked calmly, "How is it? Is everything settled?" "Yes." Li Changxing nodded and pointed at the city gates. He gritted his teeth and said, "Yi Long is already dead. But even if he died, he got off too easy." Hearing this, Ning Tian looked over. After discovering that Yi Long was dead, the demonic beast gourd became ownerless. That demonic beast gourd was a high-grade spirit artifact, and it could store demonic beasts. It would be a waste not to take it. "Take the disciple's corpse and let's go," Ning Tian said. Then, he turned around and walked towards the city gate. "Yes, Patriarch." Li Changxing nodded his head. Soon after, he called for a group of disciples to take the corpse and leave Tianfeng City. Outside Tianfeng City, Ning Tian and the rest mounted their blaze windchaser horses. "Patriarch, what should we do now?" Li Changxing rode closer and asked. Ning Tian pondered for a moment. Then, he said calmly, "Let's return to the Tiama cult first." "Yes." Li Changxing immediately called for a group of disciples. The group rode their blaze windchaser horses and rushed towards the Tiama cult. At this speed, they would arrive at the Tiama cult by dawn. A ball of fiery light galloped through the forest of the Chill Wind Mountain Range. Just as they were about to leave the Chill Wind Mountain Range, a tremor came from the ground. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Is this another wave of demonic beasts? Li Changxing and the other disciples looked not far away. Sure enough, they saw the group of demonic beasts rushing out from the depths of the Chill Wind Mountain Range. The group could only order their blaze windchaser horses to stop and let the wave of demonic beasts pass by first. Ning Tian sat on his horse and looked at the demonic beasts. He frowned slightly and fell into deep thought. The demonic beasts seemed to be panicking, as if they had seen something extremely terrifying. If it was an ordinary wave of demonic beasts, it would definitely not be here. "Patriarch, it is said that the Chill Wind Mountain Range has not been peaceful recently." Seeing Ning Tian looking at the demonic beasts, Li Changxing thought that he was interested in the demonic beasts, so he came over and said, "Waves of demonic beasts often rush out from there. Also, it is strange that these waves of demonic beasts appear all the time, regardless of whether it is day or night." Hearing Li Changxing's words, Ning Tian's eyes flashed with a hint of doubt. Waves of demonic beasts. More than 90% of the demonic beasts appeared at night. But now, waves of demonic beasts appeared frequently in the Chill Wind Mountain Range. This was a little strange. It seems that I have to find out what is going on. Ning Tian's eyes flashed. Then, he rode his blaze windchaser horse toward the wave of demonic beasts. Seeing this, Li Changxing and the group of Tiama cult disciples were stunned. Is the Patriarch going to kill the demonic beasts again? There were only some first and second stage demonic beasts in front of them, so they were not worried that Ning Tian would be in trouble. But when they saw Ning Tian take out his zither again, they were all stunned. Is the Patriarch really going to kill the demonic beasts? Chapter 80. However, when Ning Tian's zither started to play, the demonic beasts didn't die. Instead, they all stopped moving. Li Changsheng and the other disciples were stunned. What's going on? As Ning Tian's zither continued to play, the demonic beasts started to walk toward them. This is, Li Changsheng's eyes flashed with doubt. Then, he realized something. This is the Imperial Beast Sect's Imperial Beast technique. Something's not right. As soon as he said that, he immediately realized that something was wrong. He had seen the Imperial Beast Sect's Imperial Beast technique before. Most of them used flutes as symbols. Moreover, they weren't as advanced as the one the founder was using. Ancestral Master, this is another beast taming technique. Li Changsheng sucked in a breath of cold air. Sword Dao, Music Dao, and now the Imperial Beast Dao. Does the founder really want to gather all 3,000 Great Dao? Li Changsheng was shocked. Not only did the founder master 3 Daos, but he was also very familiar with each of them. The surrounding disciples let out a bitter laugh. He had long since become accustomed to the series of shocking actions of the ancestral master. After all, he was the founder. It wasn't too much to go against the heavens once in a while. At this moment, Ning Tian had already completely controlled the group of demonic beasts. He waved his hand at the demonic beast in the front, signaling it to come over. It was a white tiger. Second-ranked demonic beast, white mystic tiger. Let's go. Bring me to the Chill Wind mountain range. Ning Tian looked at the white mystic tiger and ordered. Woo, woo, woo. Hearing this, the white mystic tiger's eyes flashed with fear. It actually let out a whimper and shook its head. It seemed to be unwilling. Seeing this, Ning Tian's eyes flashed with dissatisfaction. He played the ancient zither again, and the Imperial Beast technique sounded out again. The white mystic tiger's eyes flashed with a black light, and it instantly became obedient. Bring me to see what you're afraid of. Ning Tian ordered again. Aowu. This time, Bai Xuanhu nodded, turned around, and walked towards the Chill Wind mountain range. Seeing this, Ning Tian followed. A group of Tianma cult disciples also wanted to follow, but Ning Tian stopped them. Don't follow me. Just wait for me here. Right now, he had the swimming dragon steps and the flashing teleportation technique. If there really was any danger in this mountain range, he could still escape. However, if he brought along a group of Tianma cult disciples, that might not be the case. Moreover, if these second-ranked demonic beasts could escape from it, it meant that the things inside only made them afraid, but for some reason, they couldn't do anything to them. Otherwise, how could mere second-order demonic beasts escape? Hearing Ning Tian's words, the group of disciples could only nod their heads and stay where they were. However, Li Changsheng was still worried and insisted on following. Ning Tian didn't bother with him. After all, Li Changsheng was different from the other disciples. At the very least, he had the strength of an Earth King, so he could protect himself. Soon after, the two of them rode on the Flame Windchaser horse and followed Bai Xuanhu into the depths of the Chill Wind mountain range. After a while, Bai Xuanhu didn't continue to walk into the Chill Wind mountain range. Instead, it rushed towards an extremely high cliff. Seeing this, Ning Tian and Li Changsheng's eyes flashed with a trace of doubt. Founder, should we continue to follow it? Li Changsheng looked at Ning Tian with a trace of inquiry in his eyes. Just follow it, Ning Tian said indifferently. Bai Xuanhu was now under the control of the Imperial Beast voice, so it wouldn't do anything to harm its master. Soon after, the two of them rode their horses and followed Bai Xuanhu, climbing up the cliff. Aowu. After climbing up the cliff, Bai Xuanhu let out a roar. Soon after, it roared a few times at Ning Tian, as if it was hinting him to look down the cliff. Seeing this, Ning Tian slightly frowned. He got down from the Flame Windchaser horse and walked towards the cliff. Soon after, he looked down. Looking down from above, he saw a large forest. In the dark night, there seemed to be something flickering. Ning Tian looked over and squinted his eyes. In an instant, his expression changed. This is... Founder, what's wrong? Seeing Ning Tian's surprised expression, Li Changsheng was also surprised. He immediately got down from the Flame Windchaser horse and walked to Ning Tian's side, looking in the direction that Ning Tian was looking at. What the F***ck? In the next moment, Li Chongqing's eyes flashed with a trace of astonishment. What the hell is this? Looking down from here, a huge spiritual energy barrier covered the entire forest. The most terrifying thing was that within the spiritual energy barrier, there was a huge black figure that was at least 100 meters tall. It looked like a mountain, but it wasn't a mountain. Faintly, there were waves of movement. That was breathing. Was it a living thing? Ning Tian put away the astonishment in his eyes and asked the system, "System, do you know what this thing is?" The system quickly gave him an answer. According to the system's analysis, this should be a 6th rank or higher Tomb Guardian demonic beast. 6th rank or higher Tomb Guardian demonic beast. Ning Tian was surprised. Wouldn't that be equivalent to a Holy Emperor demonic beast? But if it was a Tomb Guardian demonic beast, wouldn't that mean that it was guarding a tomb? A Celestial Master's tomb? Or a Divine Emperor's tomb? Chapter 81. A Mausoleum. Ning Tian did not expect such a treasure land to be hidden in the chilly wind mountain range. A mausoleum of a celestial venerable or an even more powerful god emperor. Who knew how many treasures there would be? This is a mausoleum of a celestial venerable or a god emperor. The surprise in Ning Tian's eyes slowly dissipated as he said indifferently, "A celestial venerable, or even a god emperor's mausoleum?" Li Chongqing's eyes widened instantly. The corner of his mouth twitched as he sucked in a breath of cold air. If it was a celestial venerable's mausoleum, it would be fine. If it was a god emperor's mausoleum, it would probably attract the attention of many forces. Ancestral Master, what should we do now? Li Chongqing's heart was beating wildly as he looked at Ning Tian. The appearance of the mausoleum left him at a loss. What else can we do? We can only go back first. Ning Tian looked down. Not only was there a tomb guardian beast, but there was also a huge spiritual energy barrier that enveloped the entire forest below. Let's go back first and think about it at length. Ning Tian turned around and mounted the blazing wind-chasing horse. He reminded Li Chongqing, "Chongqing, don't tell anyone about this first." Ning Tian thought that if this was really a celestial venerable or a god emperor's mausoleum, he could just bring his cheap wife over and let the Tianma cult take all the treasures in the mausoleum. Wouldn't that be great? Yes, Chongqing understands. Li Chongqing nodded and turned to mount the horse. The two of them prepared to go down the mountain. However, at this moment, a rumbling sound came from behind them. The two of them turned around and looked over. Boom. Rumble. They saw that the huge tomb guardian beast within the spiritual energy barrier seemed to have awakened. The huge body moved slightly, causing the ground to tremble and the trees to collapse instantly. Then, in the middle of the barrier, the soil and water collapsed, and a magnificent palace slowly rose from the ground. The entire palace was old, and the only entrance was tightly shut. This should be the mausoleum. Ning Tian looked at the majestic palace and could not help but sigh. There were many types of mausoleums. To use an entire palace as a mausoleum was a huge investment. The palace mausoleum rose from the ground and occupied several hundred meters of land. This luxurious style also seemed to confirm the extraordinariness of the owner of the mausoleum. This also showed that there were definitely many good things inside. Boom! Suddenly, a burst of extremely powerful spirit chi erupted from the entire palace and spread out in all directions. Then, the originally almost transparent spirit energy barrier was strengthened. Vaguely, a blue spiritual chi boundary enveloped the entire mausoleum palace. Immediately after, a dazzling beam of light shot out from the center of the mausoleum and into the sky. What is this? Li Chongqing's eyes widened. That light soared into the sky, and it was likely that many forces in the vicinity of the Chill Wind mountain range would notice it. At this moment, Ning Tian didn't care what the light that shot into the sky was. He was speechless. He only knew that his plan was ruined. Wasn't it obvious that this beam of light was going to be discovered by others? Roar! Suddenly, the gigantic tomb guardian beast roared. When the palace appeared, it was completely awakened. The roar brought along waves of pressure. This made the nearby white mystic tiger tremble in fear. If it wasn't controlled by the sound of beasts, it would have turned around and fled. Along with the tomb guardian beast's roar, all the beasts and birds in the chill wind mountain range were startled. Waves of beasts fled from the vicinity of the barrier. Within the chill wind mountain range, many people who entered to search for treasures heard the roar, and their faces changed. When they raised their heads, they saw the dazzling beam of light soaring into the sky. What is that? They furrowed their brows. Let's go. Let's hurry back to the sect and inform the sect leader. On the cliff. Changsheng, let's go. Ning Tian glanced at the tomb guardian beast and turned around to leave. Yes, ancestral master. Li Changsheng rode his horse and followed. Below the cliff, a group of Tianma cult disciples were trembling, because at this moment, there were many powerful beasts rushing out from the forest around them. But fortunately, these beasts seemed to only care about escaping and didn't attack them. That beam of light, what is it? They also saw the blue beam of light that shot straight to the sky, and they were also curious. At this moment, in the forest, two flames flickered. It was Ning Tian and Li Changsheng riding the blazing wind-chasing horse. Ancestral Master, Senior Brother Li, the group of disciples hurriedly saluted. Yes, let's go. Ning Tian nodded and said to the crowd, Ancestral Master, what is that blue beam of light? A disciple curiously looked at the blue beam of light and couldn't help but ask. You will know soon, Ning Tian said and didn't explain. Then, he looked at the beasts controlled by the sound of beasts. With the white mystic tiger as the leader, there were about 30 beasts. But among them, 20 were rank 1 beasts. Ning Tian didn't plan to take rank 1 beasts. After all, rank 1 beasts were equivalent to the Black Martial Master level. Rank 2 beasts were equivalent to the Spirit Detecting realm. Rank 3 and 4 beasts were equivalent to the Earth King realm. And rank 5 and 6 beasts were equivalent to the Saint Emperor realm. He snapped his fingers at the 20 rank 1 beasts, and the sound of beasts controlling them instantly disappeared. After regaining consciousness, they immediately scattered in all directions. As for the white mystic tiger and the remaining 10 rank 2 beasts, Ning Tian didn't hesitate to put them into the demonic beast gourd he took from Yilong. 11 rank 2 beasts turned into streaks of light and rushed into the demonic beast gourd in the blink of an eye. Seeing this scene, Li Changsheng and the others couldn't help but sigh. The ancestral master had too many tricks up his sleeve. Let's go. After doing all this, Ning Tian put away the demonic beast gourd and rode on the blazing wind-chasing horse. Leading the group of Tianma cult disciples, they turned into streaks of light in the dark night and rushed toward the Tianma cult. Several hours later, when the beam of light appeared in the Chill Wind Mountain Range, many forces in the vicinity of the Chill Wind Mountain Range were shocked. Then, he sent many disciples over to find out what was going on. When they learned that there was a huge demonic beast and a magnificent palace in the Chill Wind Mountain Range, they instantly became excited. There must be a great treasure in the palace. Unfortunately, when they wanted to enter the palace, they were blocked by a huge barrier. The news of the Chill Wind Mountain Range spread far and wide. Tianma cult. On the cliff where the demonic palace was located, Luo Wuqing gazed into the distance. There was a blue beam of light shooting into the sky. Empress, that direction. Seems to be the Chill Wind Mountain Range. The Supreme Elder frowned and looked at the blue beam of light with a solemn expression. Luo Wuqing nodded. Will the ancestral master be in danger? The Supreme Elder couldn't help but worry. Chapter 82. Hearing this, Luo Wuqing pondered for a while, and her eyebrows slightly creased. I'll go find him. After saying this, she turned around and walked out of the demonic palace. No need to go. At this time, outside the main hall, Ning Tian's hearty laughter sounded. Along with the sound, Ning Tian walked in from outside the main hall. Seeing this guy unscathed and in high spirits, Luo Wuqing and the Supreme Elder heaved a sigh of relief. What's wrong? Ning Tian walked over, hugged Luo Wuqing's soft and slender waist, and asked with a naughty smile, Wife, are you worried about me? Seeing this scene, The Supreme Elder hurriedly turned around in embarrassment. He sighed in his heart. Ah, it's good to be young. When this old man was young, this old man could hold several beauties with one hand. Cough, cough. Being hugged by Ning Tian, Luo Wuqing's beautiful eyes flashed with a trace of doubt. When did this guy become so bold? Then, she gently broke free from Ning Tian's embrace and said in a cold voice, "Worried about you? You think too much." Hearing this, Ning Tian smiled happily. He naturally knew that this cheap wife of his was cold on the outside but warm on the inside. She always had a sharp tongue but a soft heart. Tell me, what happened in the Chill Wind Mountain Range? Luo Wuqing looked at Ning Tian and asked. Ning Tian replied, a palace mausoleum appeared in the Chill Wind Mountain Range. A palace tomb? Luo Wuqing and the Supreme Elder's eyes flashed with a trace of doubt, and Ning Tian nodded. After which, he slowly described everything that he had seen on the Chill Wind Mountain Range from the top of the cliff. After which, the two of them sank into silence. 6th grade or even higher tomb guardian demon beasts. The tomb of a heavenly venerable or even a god emperor. It seemed that there were still many things hidden in the Chill Wind Mountain Range. Luo Wuqing pondered for a moment before saying, if it's just the tomb of a celestial venerate, it shouldn't attract too many forces. If it's the tomb of a great emperor among god emperors, I'm afraid the entire celestial spirit region will be in an uproar. Hearing her words, Ning Tian and the Supreme Elder both nodded. If it was a great emperor's tomb, even Luo Wuqing and all the other great emperors in the heavenly spirit region would be tempted. This was because only great emperors knew how rich a great emperor's foundation was. Luo Wuqing looked at Ning Tian. According to your words, if it's only a 6th-rank monster beast, then there's an 80 to 90% chance that it's the celestial venerated mausoleum. If you want to go when the time comes, I can ask the Supreme Elder to take you there. After all, there was no need for celestial emperors to enter the celestial venerate's mausoleum. Instead, it would attract the attention of other emperor god experts and make the situation even more complicated. Yes, Your Majesty. The Supreme Elder did not have any objections. Hee. Ning Tian smiled and moved closer to Luo Wuqing. Smelling her fragrance, he said with a naughty smile, Wife, since you're so nice, let your husband give you a kiss. Get lost. A few black lines appeared on Luo Wuqing's forehead. Ha ha ha. Ning Tian laughed because he saw a wisp of redness behind Luo Wuqing's ear. Wife, it's getting late. Let's hurry up and go back to sleep while there's still time. Ning Tian glanced at Luo Wuqing. Immediately, when she was unprepared, he carried her on his shoulder and used the swimming dragon steps to rush out of the main hall. Before leaving, he did not forget to say something to the Supreme Elder in the main hall. Supreme Elder, my wife and I will go to sleep first. You're an old man. Don't stay up late. Staying up late will make you bald. Ha ha ha. Hearing Ning Tian's words, the Supreme Elder was stunned. He rubbed his eyes. Just now, the ancestral master carried the Empress and ran away? Ning Tian carried Luo Wuqing all the way, which stunned many disciples and elders. When did the ancestral master become so fierce? They were stunned for a moment, and then they all gave Ning Tian a thumbs up. Good job, ancestral master. Soon, Ning Tian carried Luo Wuqing back to the room. Of course, it was so smooth because Luo Wuqing did not resist. Phew. Ning Tian put Luo Wuqing down and panted heavily. Motherf asterisk Kerr. Why is a person getting heavier and heavier while carrying him? My wife has a perfect body. She shouldn't be heavy. Heh. Luo Wuqing sat on the bed and said indifferently, What's wrong? You ran out of strength after carrying me for such a short distance? Can you do it? Luo Wuqing's words were full of provocation. The reason why Ning Tian was so tired was that she secretly used a little bit of spiritual energy. You. Ning Tian gritted his teeth, looked at Luo Wuqing's seductive appearance, and said jokingly, Wife, don't ever say that a man can't do it. In an instant, the spiritual energy in his body was rich, and his weak body was suddenly filled with strength. You. Luo Wuqing was stunned. At this time, the words that the Queen Mother of the West once said appeared in her ears, and she couldn't help but blush. It seemed like, just like what the Queen Mother of the West said, her cheap husband's body was still okay. Seeing Luo Wuqing's beautiful face blushing, Ning Tian felt the blood in his body was ignited, like a hungry tiger pouncing on its prey. Hee. Today, I want to eat meat. The next day, Ning Tian got up with a satisfied face and couldn't help but sigh. The days of eating meat were really beautiful. After that, he casually ate a few steamed buns. Then, he stretched and walked towards the Moonlight Cliff, ready to start cultivating. Under the Moonlight Cliff, there was already a large group of disciples waiting here. Seeing Ning Tian humming a tune as he walked over, they were all a little excited. Good morning, Ancestral Master. Greetings, Ancestral Master. Under the Moonlight Cliff, a large group of Tianma cult disciples all saluted Ning Tian. Good morning. Which hall are you disciples of? Ning Tian nodded at them and then asked. Now, almost the entire Tianma cult knew that if they followed the Ancestral Master to cultivate, they would be able to obtain the blessings bestowed by the Ancestral Master. Therefore, for the sake of fairness, the disciples of the entire Tianma cult simply lined up the 108 halls one by one. Ancestral Master, we are disciples of the Sword Hall. A group of disciples replied. Oh, disciples of the Sword Hall? Hearing this, Ning Tian smiled. The Ancestral Master is in a good mood today, so I'll give you some pointers on the Sword Dao. The group of Sword Hall disciples was stunned for a moment, and then ecstasy appeared on their faces. Even the Sword Hall elder who cultivated the Sword Dao had said it publicly. Although his strength was stronger than the Ancestral Master, his understanding of the Sword Dao was far inferior to the Ancestral Master. This was enough to prove Ning Tian's attainments in the Sword Dao. Thank you, Ancestral Master. Ancestral Master, we love you. Eternal God. The group of Sword Hall disciples were extremely excited, and they thanked Ning Tian. Ding. Absorbing Faith Energy. Faith Energy +1. Faith Energy +1. Faith Energy +2. Faith Energy +3. Current Faith Energy Storage, 220-1000. Hearing the system's voice in his mind, Ning Tian's lips curled up slightly. Then, he opened Faith Cultivation and began to guide the Sword Hall disciples. Chapter 83. In the evening, after the cultivation ended, the hearts of the group of Sword Hall disciples were overturned by shock. They didn't know how many times the Ancestral Master had shocked them that day. Almost everyone's comprehension of the Sword Dao had improved by leaps and bounds. Well, today's cultivation will end here. Ning Tian slowly stood up and looked at the Faith Energy Storage. It had changed from 220 to 400. He couldn't help but smile. If this continued, he would be able to condense it again soon. At that time, it would be another big killing move. Everyone, goodbye. With that said, a dragon flashed beneath Ning Tian's feet, and she disappeared in the blink of an eye. Seeing the terrifying speed of the Patriarch's disappearance, the group of Sword Hall disciples didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Their reverence for the Patriarch had reached a new height. Everyone's improvement in Sword Dao was extremely terrifying. They could even imagine the shocked expression on the Sword Hall elder's face when they returned to Sword Hall. In the evening, in Sword Hall, an excited and ecstatic voice resounded throughout the Tianma cult. F***CK. The Patriarch is awesome. In an instant, the entire Tianma cult was shocked. Soon, on a mountain not far from Sword Hall, the Supreme Elder's cursing voice sounded. Hey kid, are you still going to sleep? The Patriarch told me that I'm old and can't stay up late. I only have a few strands of hair left. You're deliberately going against my hair. Hearing this voice, the Sword Hall elder scratched his head awkwardly. He hurriedly whispered, Supreme Elder, please calm down. I won't disturb your sleep. After saying that, the Sword Hall elder looked at the group of disciples in the hall. His face was a little flushed. Have all of your Sword Dao really broken through to the novice level?
Yes.
Elder, you might not believe me, but the truth is right here. The group of Sword Hall disciples nodded. Looking at the shock on the Sword Hall elder's face, it was as if he was looking at them during the day. Hiss! The Sword Hall elder sucked in a breath of cold air. Just like the comprehension of cultivation techniques, the attainments in this Tao were divided into 5 levels. First glimpse at the door, minor accomplishment, next level, perfection, and great perfection. Apart from a few talented disciples, the rest of his disciples hadn't even reached the level of elementary insight. They were only at the level of having a rough understanding of the Sword Tao. Because of this, he had a headache for a long time, worrying about how to bring them in. But who would have thought that after a single day of cultivation at the founder's place, all of them would be able to reach the level of novice insight? How could he not be shocked? Patriarch is truly a legend of our Tianma cult. The Sword Hall elder sighed deeply, and the group of disciples behind him nodded in agreement. Only by seeing the wonders of the ancestral master would one be able to affirm his legend. As for their sighs of approval, Ning Tian naturally couldn't hear them. This was because he was currently hugging the Empress's wife and sleeping soundly. In the next few days, the news about the mausoleum in the chilly Wind Mountains had spread throughout the entire heavenly spirit domain. Many Emperor Realm forces had sent people to check it out. Soon, everyone judged that it should be a celestial master's mausoleum. It was estimated that the barrier guarding the mausoleum would completely dissipate within 10 days. However, since it was a celestial master's mausoleum, as Luo Wuqing had said, some forces immediately announced their withdrawal from the competition. After all, it was only a celestial master's mausoleum. However, there were still some top forces that still joined. Although it was a celestial master's mausoleum, the huge palace mausoleum still spoke of its extraordinariness. 10 days later, the Celestial Master's Mausoleum would open, and this news had also spread to the Tianma cult. Luo Wuqing immediately decided to let Ning Tian and the Supreme Elder lead the team to the Celestial Master's Mausoleum in 10 days. Time passed in the blink of an eye. In just a few days. These days, after hearing about the Sword Hall's disciples, many of the elders were excited, waiting for Ning Tian to change their disciples. And Ning Tian did indeed bring a lot of improvement to the disciples in the hall, as they had expected. On the moonlight cliff, Ning Tian stretched and slowly got up. Suddenly, he saw the great elder leading a group of people to the demonic palace. Who is that? Ning Tian found a disciple and asked. Ancestor, that is the king of Dongxing country, Lin Ba, the disciple replied. The king of Dongxing country? Hearing this, Ning Tian frowned and muttered, "What is this guy doing in the Tianma cult?" Ning Tian's only impression of Dongxing country was Lin Xiaoyao. That guy actually dared to snatch his wife away from him. He still remembered this resentment. No, I have to go and see what he is up to. Ning Tian made up his mind. After informing the disciples at the foot of the moonlight cliff, he used the swimming dragon steps and rushed to the demonic palace. In the demonic palace, Lin Ba led a group of subordinates and followed the great elder. Luo Wuqing was sitting in the main hall. "Greetings, your majesty." Lin Ba smiled and bowed to Luo Wuqing. Although he was also an emperor god, he was only a 3-star quasi-emperor. "King Lin, you may dispense with the formalities," Luo Wuqing said politely. Then, he looked at Lin Ba and asked, "You don't visit a temple without a cause. May I know what brings King Lin to the Tianma cult?" Seeing Luo Wuqing's arrogant attitude, Lin Ba was very unhappy. After all, he was the king of a country. However, he was also a smiling tiger. Although he was unhappy, he always wore a smile on his face. "Your Majesty, isn't the Celestial Master's Mausoleum in the chilly Wind Mountains opening in a few days? Dongxing country would like to cooperate with the Tianma cult." "Oh?" Luo Wuqing raised his eyebrows slightly. "May I know what kind of cooperation King Lin would like to have with the Tianma cult?" Hee. Lin Ba smiled. "Of course, we would like to help each other. Our people will enter the Celestial Master's Mausoleum together. If we obtain any treasures, Dongxing country can give them all up. We only need the Tianma cult to help us find something." "What is it?" Luo Wuqing narrowed his eyes and asked calmly. "Pure heart, not grass." Lin Ba looked at Luo Wuqing. This grass can heal my son's injuries. I heard that the pure heart knot grass grows in places of extreme yin. The celestial master's mausoleum might have it. If it weren't for the fact that it was inappropriate for him, as an emperor god, to intervene in the celestial master's mausoleum and cause dissatisfaction among the other forces, he would have gone in himself. Some of the disciples of Dongxing country were no match for the disciples of other emperor realm forces. Therefore, he could only cooperate. And since time was pressing, he could only set his target of cooperation on the sky demon cult beside him. Although he had already secretly cooperated with the righteous faction, it didn't affect his idea of using the Tianma cult as a tool for the time being. Oh, is that so? Hearing this, Luo Wuqing seemed to be uninterested. What do you think, Empress? Lin Ba looked at Luo Wuqing intently. Just as Luo Wuqing was about to answer, a hearty voice sounded from outside the hall. Oh, isn't this King Lin Ba? I wonder if Prince Lin Xiaoyao is doing well? At the mention of Lin Xiaoyao, Lin Ba's expression darkened. He turned around and saw a handsome young man walking in with an apple in his mouth. It's you, the legendary patriarch of the Tianma cult. Lin Ba's expression changed when he saw Ning Tian. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.